Chapter 535. Qin Yu said that he had to start from the dantian and concentrate all the true yuan in his body into his dantian. This also meant that Shi Tiangang had to let go of his defenses and let Qin Yu enter the dantian. It could be said that Shi Tiangang was defenseless during this period. If Qin Yu had any evil thoughts, he could cause fatal damage to Shi Tiangang. If the person who attacked was Shi Tianyin, Sun Jiuxiao, or the others, Shi Tiangang would naturally have no qualms. But Qin Yu, who might be a reincarnated powerhouse, made Shi Tiangang suspicious. Before he figured out Qin Yu's identity as a reincarnator, he really didn't dare to let Qin Yu attack. Follow me. After thinking for a moment, Shi Tiangang looked deeply at Qin Yu and walked into the depths of the hall. Qin Yu raised his eyebrows slightly and followed. At the end of the hall, Shi Tiangang and Qin Yu instantly entered a secret realm. Or perhaps it could be said that it was a Dao technique space. But the moment he stepped in, Qin Yu's eyes flashed. This path law space was also left behind by my ancestors, but it is different from the Divine Palace. There is no power of inheritance here. Shi Tiangang turned around and looked at Qin Yu very seriously. It seems that he has already suspected your identity and is ready to expose it. The dragon soul in the ancient seal of the dragon god spoke. Qin Yu's expression was calm. From Shi Tiangang's reaction, he could roughly guess why Shi Tiangang had brought him here. Do you know what this path law space is used for? Shi Tiangang continued. There are fluctuations of the power of reincarnation. Is it used to detect reincarnators? Qin Yu had sensed it when he came in. You are a reincarnator, right? Shi Tiangang wasn't surprised by Qin Yu's detection. He brought Qin Yu here to thoroughly confirm Qin Yu's identity as a reincarnator. That's right. Qin Yu was a little surprised that Shi Tiangang spoke so directly, but he did not deny it. Now, he had enough strength to admit this. Who are you? Shi Tiangang asked solemnly. He was naturally asking about Qin Yu's identity in his previous life. I can't tell you that. It didn't matter if he revealed that he was a reincarnator, but Qin Yu couldn't reveal his identity as the dragon god Venerable. If I didn't know your identity, how could I be at ease and allow you to stay in my Sky Emperor Palace? Shi Tiangang said, It's very simple. I can concoct the Immortal Emperor Pill, and I also have a way to expel the ancient divine power. I believe that these 2 points are enough. Qin Yu said with a calm expression. Whether it was the Immortal Emperor Elixir or the expulsion of the primordial divine power, both were extremely important to Sky Emperor Palace. The former was related to the bloodline of the Heavenly Imperial Palace. As for the latter, after experiencing what had happened today, he had no choice but to accept it. For Sky Emperor Palace, the extraction of the ancient divine power was more urgent than the refining of the Immortal Emperor Elixir. You were a member of my Sky Imperial Palace in your past life? Shi Tiangang heard this and asked again. Not really. Qin Yu shook his head slightly. Then what's your purpose? You wouldn't help us for no reason, right? Shi Tiangang raised his eyebrows slightly. He had really thought that Qin Yu might be a reincarnated ancestor of the Sky Emperor Palace. After all, Qin Yu had obtained the inheritance of the 3 emperors and helped them through danger time and time again. This was definitely a close relationship between them, but he didn't expect Qin Yu to deny it so bluntly. As you can see, I'm only a 2nd grade Emperor Realm Master now. I'm nothing compared to the top masters of the Heaven Domain. So, your Sky Emperor Palace is equivalent to a temporary hiding place for me. Therefore, helping the descendants of the 3 emperors get through the danger and making you stronger is a win-win situation. Qin Yu said frankly. For Qin Yu, Sky Emperor Palace was really just a hiding place. Just like the destruction of the sacrificial evil god dynasty. With Sky Emperor Palace around, everyone's attention fell on Sky Emperor Palace. No one in the outside world found out that the person who caused the destruction of the sacrificial evil god dynasty was actually him. Shi Tiangang frowned unconsciously. Qin Yu was indeed very frank, but the meaning behind his words was also quite obvious. He was using Sky Emperor Palace to recover his cultivation. An unknown reincarnation realm master had been hiding by their side all this time. No one from any great force would feel good about it. This was equivalent to a dozing beast. No one knew when this beast would wake up. Moreover, Qin Yu's cultivation was still weak now, so he had the absolute advantage over them. When his cultivation recovered to its peak, it was hard to say whether it would be a good thing or a bad thing for Sky Emperor Palace. This was a great risk for Sky Emperor Palace. After all, an existence who could be reborn from reincarnation was at least a divine Emperor Realm Master at their peak. Sure, Tiangang had never heard of an ordinary Emperor Realm Master's soul being reincarnated. I know what you were worried about, but in my opinion, you don't have to be so worried. First of all, Sky Emperor Palace needs my help. Secondly, I have already obtained Sky Emperor Palace's greatest secret, the inheritance of the 3 ancient emperors. Do you think there's anything in Sky Emperor Palace that can tempt me? Of course, if you're still worried, I can leave Sky Emperor Palace now. Seeing Shi Tiangang deep in thought, Qin Yu said directly. He already had a clue about the tomb of the Dragon Emperor, and he had also obtained information about the 3 transformed dragons from AOD. As long as Qin Yu's plan succeeded, he would obtain the combat strength of several peak emperors after killing the heavenly dragon. At that time, Qin Yu's strength would expand to the point where he could deal with an entire sect alone. To Qin Yu, the heavenly imperial palace was truly something that he looked down on. Hearing Qin Yu's words, Shi Tiangang smiled bitterly. Letting Qin Yu obtain the 3 ancient emperors' divine powers was indeed their greatest dereliction of duty so far. The greatest secret they had guarded for generations had actually been obtained by an outsider. Shi Tiangang would be lying if he said he did not regret it. As for letting Qin Yu leave, that was even more impossible. In the end, they had no room to resist in front of Qin Yu. Since you are unwilling to say, then I won't ask anymore. Sighing softly in his heart, Shi Tiangang did not ask anymore. In the current situation, they were in an absolutely passive position and could not do anything to Qin Yu. Apart from that, there was also the divination prophecy left by their ancestors. Qin Yu was the prophesied person mentioned by the ancestor. Judging from the current situation, there was absolutely no mistake. Since their ancestors only prophesied that the bloodline of the 3 ancient emperors would be rekindled, they did not say that Qin Yu would bring about any disaster, so there should not be any problem. Of course, thinking was just thinking. They still had to take the necessary precautions. Today's matter could not happen again. Right. How is the Myriad Mountain Cauldron? Previously, the situation was urgent, so Shi Tiangang did not ask in detail. Now he wanted to know whether the Myriad Mountain Cauldron had escaped or died in Qin Yu's hands. How should I put it? Although I killed him, I might not have killed his true body. Qin Yu said, another clone? Shi Tiangang pondered for a moment. He thought of the clone that he and Sun Guxing had jointly killed. Not only did his battle strength reach that of a peak emperor, but even he could not tell if it was real or fake. When did the 10,000 martial sect have such a terrifying secret technique? Chapter 536. The invasion of the sacrificial evil court and the actions of the 1,000 martial sect may be related to the extraterritorial demon race. If this news is released, it should have a big impact on the 1,000 martial sect. Qin Yu said, whether it was the sacrificial evil court or the 1,000 martial sect, they could ignite and riot the ancient divine power. Qin Yu didn't believe that they had no connection with the extraterritorial demon race. As for whether the 2 sects colluded with the extraterritorial demon race or were planted by the extraterritorial demon race, this was unknown. About this, I've already sent someone to do it. A cold light flashed in Shi Tiangang's eyes. During the first battle of the sacrificial evil court, they were worried that the extraterritorial demon race would target them. Therefore, they didn't spread the news that the sacrificial evil court had the extraterritorial demon race behind them. But now, the situation in the spiritual state had turned into a confrontation in the northeast, so Shi Tiangang naturally didn't have so many concerns. Another point was that the 1,000 martial sect and the sacrificial evil court had attacked them time and time again, which made Shi Tiangang really angry. Of course, even if the news was released, it would at most cause some trouble for the 1,000 martial sect. Without conclusive evidence, the Thousand Martial sect couldn't be shaken. For the imperial palace, the most important thing was to expel the ancient divine power in their bodies and find the immortal spirit herbs to refine the immortal emperor pill. Improving their own strength was the most important thing at the moment. After chatting for a while, Qin Yu and Shi Tiangang left the secret realm. Shi Tiangang had already made a decision about the expulsion of the ancient divine power. After the storm this time died down, he would start to purify the ancient divine power. After leaving the Dao Law space, Qin Yu returned to the palace where he lived and began to study the primordial immortal force restriction that AOD brought. Although Qin Yu and Shi Tiangang seemed to have shown their cards today, and Shi Tiangang wouldn't ask about his true identity. But Qin Yu knew that was only because the Heavenly Emperor Palace was not as powerful as him. The Heavenly Emperor Palace still wouldn't have absolute trust in him. If there were external forces interfering, it would inevitably cause more trouble. Therefore, Qin Yu's own plan couldn't be disrupted. After refining the immortal Emperor pill, I'm afraid I'll have to consider leaving. The Dragon Soul appeared and said to Qin Yu, although the Heavenly Imperial Palace was the best place to hide at the moment, once Shi Tiangang and the others reignited their bloodlines, a divine Emperor Realm Master might appear. At that time, there would be no more restraints on each other, and their relationship would not be so good. It's time to think about the next step of the plan. Qin Yu nodded slightly. After all, the Heavenly Imperial Palace was not a place to stay for long. After all, the sacrificial evil god dynasty was already destroyed. Qin Yu didn't need to stay in the spiritual state for long. Staying in the Heavenly Imperial Palace was only to conceal his current identity. As for Shi Tiangang, after coming out of the secret realm, he went to deal with the descendants of Qi Shi Ri and the other 12 war generals. Although he had used Qin Yu's hand to suppress all the descendants of the 12 war generals, he was still able to do so. But how to deal with it was still a problem. It should be known that the descendants of the 12 war generals were equivalent to half the strength of the Imperial Palace of Sky. Shi Tiangang thought hard for a long time. He had originally planned to ruthlessly wipe out all the 12 war generals to prevent any future troubles. But Qi Shi Ri and the others volunteered to be controlled by the descendants of the 3 emperors. Their purpose was to stay in the Heavenly Imperial Palace and give the descendants of the young war generals a way out. Shi Tiangang thought for a long time and agreed to the conditions of Qi Shi Ri and the others. No matter what, the current Heavenly Imperial Palace was in urgent need of a powerful force to support it. After the problem of the descendants of the war generals was resolved, Shi Tiangang and the others began to discuss the matter of stripping the ancient divine power and preparing to seize the immortal spirit grass. After so long of investigation, they had confirmed that the immortal spirit grass had indeed appeared in the Middle State Sanctuary. It could be said that the hottest news in the Middle State was the appearance of the immortal spirit grass. Countless forces and powerhouses had gathered in the Middle State Sanctuary. So far, the immortal spirit grass had not been taken away. Therefore, the situation in the spiritual state was relatively stable, and the ancient divine power in their bodies was stripped. The Heavenly Imperial Palace and the others were about to gather their powerhouses and head to the Middle State Sanctuary. The descendants of the Heavenly Imperial Palace's war generals joined forces with the 10,000 Martial sect to start a riot. One day later, news of the 10,000 Martial sect colluding with the extraterritorial demon race appeared everywhere in the spiritual state. This news spread throughout the spiritual state at an astonishing speed, causing heated discussions among countless forces. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that someone wanted to drag the neutral 10,000 Martial sect into the turbulent situation in the spiritual state. However, the source of the news was completely untraceable. More importantly, the 10,000 Martial sect remained completely silent and did not respond at all. Just like this, the news spread for a few days and the heat slowly died down. This greatly exceeded the expectations of the Heavenly Imperial Palace. They were even prepared for the 10,000 Martial sect to blatantly retaliate against them. After all, the other forces did not know who spread the news, but the 10,000 martial sect would definitely guess that it was them. In the end, not only did the 10,000 martial sect not take any action, but even the matter of the 12 war generals' descendants rebelling was not spread at all. The 10,000 martial sect's strange calmness not only did not make the heavenly imperial palace feel at ease, but also made them feel an inexplicable sense of danger. The overly calm 10,000 martial sect was like a venomous snake lurking in the dark. No one knew when it would rush out to bite someone. Fortunately, the problem of the 12 war generals had been resolved. On the surface, the heavenly imperial palace only had 2 top sovereigns who did not appear, so the overall impact was not great. Therefore, the heavenly imperial palace, the Tianyang Holy Land, the Sage Divine Dynasty, and several other superforces. The Northwest Martial Arts Alliance, which had formed a secret alliance, became more stable and secure. This also made the heavenly imperial palace breathe a sigh of relief. Just like this, about 10 days passed. Shi Tiangang and the others finally made the decision to purify the ancient divine power in their bodies. In the heavenly imperial palace's divine palace. Remember, when condensing all of your true essence in your dantian, do not resist at all. Otherwise, it is very likely that your true essence origin will be destroyed. After changing his appearance, Qin looked at Shi Tiangang and son Jiuxiao, who were sitting cross-legged, and said, behind the 2 of them were Shi Tianyun, Sun Yunlang, and the other descendants of the 3 sovereigns. Among the descendants of the 3 sovereigns, more than half of the high-level sovereigns were gathered here. Come! Shi Tiangang and son Jiuxiao nodded slightly and completely dispersed the defensive Dao techniques on their bodies. Seeing this, Qin sent out a divine power imprint from his right palm. The battle dragon true essence poured into the divine imprint. In the next moment, strands of true essence and divine power appeared and seeped into the origin true essence in Shi Tiangang and son Jiuxiao's dantian. Many of the descendants of the 3 sovereigns, who did not know Qin Yu's identity, sized him up as their Dao techniques, and true essence surged. Once they discovered that the situation was not right, they would attack Qin Yu. This was also the reason why Shi Tiangang and son Jiuxiao asked Qin Yu to expel the divine power first. This was to set an example for the other sovereigns of the heavenly imperial palace. Although they did not know why Qin Yu did not use Shun Feng's identity to expel the divine power, they did not know why. They could not force Qin Yu to reveal his identity. The time it took for an incense stick to burn passed by silently. Seal. Qin Yu, who had condensed the divine power in the 2's dantian's true essence into his own true essence and divine power, suddenly shouted. Then, Qin Yu flicked his finger. True essence and divine power imprints appeared in Shi Tiangang and son Jiuxiao's dantian and entered the divine power imprint in his palm. Chapter 537. Chirp. Vaguely, there was the sound of a bird chirping. The divine energy that was originally berserk and destructive on Qin Yu's palm rapidly disappeared. The spirit of the ancient heavenly rock had appeared and directly suppressed and refined the ancient divine power of Shi Tiangang and Sun Jiuxiao. The amount of divine power they refined was far beyond Qin Yu's expectations. Qin Yu's consumed ancient era's divine energy had been replenished quite a bit. Seeing that Shi Tiangang and son Jiuxiao had successfully stripped away the ancient divine power, the 3 of them were all shocked. The expressions of the other descendants of the 3 emperors brightened greatly. Only then do they let down their guard against Qin Yu. The stripping of divine power from the heavenly emperor palace lasted for 3 days. Except for the unconscious Sun Guxing, everyone else's divine power was suppressed and refined by Qin Yu. The amount of ancient divine power Qin Yu obtained was several times more than what he had obtained in the primordial god's ruins. One could imagine how much ancient divine power the heavenly emperor palace had plundered during the chaos in the spiritual state. Buzz. In the palace, Qin Yu, who had stripped away the ancient divine power of the people of the heavenly emperor palace, was meditating to recover. His expression changed slightly. Opening his eyes, Qin Yu flicked his finger and a talisman appeared. It was a message from AOD. It's ready already? Qin Yu was a little surprised. He had not finished breaking the primordial immortal power restriction. But when he poured his soul power into the talisman, Qin Yu frowned slightly. Did something happen again? The dragon's soul appeared and asked. It seems like something really did happen. Qin Yu gave the dragon's soul the talisman. The message from AOD was not that the tomb of the Dragon Emperor was ready. It was that AOD needed 3 months to prepare. That guy, is he up to something? The dragon's soul frowned slightly. Ever since they had joined forces, AOD had been constantly changing and had postponed going to the tomb of the Dragon Emperor. This made the dragon soul suspicious. It doesn't matter what he wants to do, as long as he can enter the tomb of the Dragon Emperor. Qin Yu thought about it and did not care. With his current combat strength, it was even possible for him to take down AOD if he was well prepared. Therefore, even if AOD really wanted to scheme against him, Qin Yu was not afraid at all. If it really came to that point, Qin Yu wouldn't mind taking care of him as well. According to his plan, AOD would eventually end up in Eternal Dragon, in the Outer Realm, in a gigantic demonic skeleton palace. Within the Devil Palace, there were 12 gigantic and terrifying devil shadows. Terrifying devil might emanated from them, sweeping across the sky. Outside the Devil Palace of Skeletons, numerous Devil Clan experts had gathered and were standing quietly. What do you think about the news from the spirit state of the heavenly realm? A demonic figure with a horn on his head broke the oppressive silence. A few years ago, there was indeed a rumor that there were ancient emperors in the heaven domain who had thoroughly researched the primordial divine power. A demonic shadow, surrounded by deep blue demonic runes, said in a deep voice. If that's the case, then the heaven domain invasion plan really has to stop here. Another demonic figure spoke. The most important thing right now is to find out if the heaven domain has completely controlled the primordial divine power. Indeed, if we act rashly, we'll only alert the enemy. The other giant demonic shadows spoke one after another. The storm that was about to sweep across the heaven domain calmed down. At the same time, in the middle state of the heaven domain, the extraterritorial devil race's plan has been stopped. In a mysterious palace, 7 ancient emperors were gathered. These 7 ancient emperors weren't here in their true forms. They were just 7 Dao Technique clones. That's right. According to the information sent back by our spies, the extraterritorial devil race has indeed stopped their invasion. An ancient emperor with a crown on his head spoke in a domineering voice. Could something have happened in the extraterritorial devil race? An ancient emperor in azure clothes muttered to himself, puzzled. We've already sent our spies to investigate closely, but there hasn't been any news yet. An ancient emperor in armor said, It seems like our plan has to be put on hold as well. A skinny elder spoke in a rather weak and sinister voice. Could it be that the news has been leaked? A red-haired man pondered for a moment before speaking. Those who know about the plan are all our trusted subordinates. It's impossible for them to have leaked it. The ancient emperor with the crown shook his head. In my opinion, it's better for us to investigate our own people just in case. A cold-looking man said coldly. That's true. The last woman in a palace dress nodded slightly. If that's the case, then we'll investigate internally first. After confirming that no one has leaked the information, we'll proceed with the next step of the plan. After the 7 ancient emperors conversed, their Dao Technique power dissipated, and they all disappeared from the giant palace. Spiritual State, North Region, Sky Imperial Palace. You found the exact location of the immortal spirit herb? Sure, Tiangang, who was in seclusion, heard Sun Jiuxiao's words, and his expression brightened greatly. That's right. I heard that an ancient emperor expert from the Middle Region has made a move. He discovered that the immortal spirit herb that has been appearing but unable to be traced is located in a dual void mystic realm. Now, that dual void mystic realm has been sealed by an ancient emperor expert. The immortal spirit herb is also trapped in that mystic realm. Sun Jiuxiao's excited expression was tinged with a tinge of solemnity. Even an ancient emperor expert has intervened. Shi Tiangong's originally excited expression also turned solemn. This was definitely not good news for Sky Imperial Palace, which currently had no divine emperors guarding it. Moreover, only the strongest of the divine emperors could become an ancient emperor. Sky Imperial Palace had a long history, but the number of ancient emperors that had appeared could be counted on one hand. This is troublesome. Even if we use a secret technique to snatch the immortal spirit herb, I'm afraid we won't be able to bring it back to the spiritual state. Shi Tiangang muttered to himself. Palace Master, I have a plan, but I'm not sure if it'll work. Sun Jiuxiao pondered for a moment before speaking. Speak. At this time, it was better to have a plan than to be at a loss. We can immediately refine the immortal spirit herb after snatching it. Sun Jiuxiao said, once the immortal spirit herb is refined, no matter what secret technique we use, it can only be sealed for 7 days. After 7 days, it will automatically dissipate. If we do this, Shi Tiangong's voice suddenly paused as he understood Sun Jiuxiao's meaning. As long as Shun Feng is willing to follow us to the middle state, we can definitely refine the immortal emperor pill on the spot. Sun Jiuxiao said. Shi Tiangang pondered for a moment. Sun Jiuxiao's idea was indeed feasible. Ever since news of the immortal spirit herb spread in the middle state, they had read countless ancient books and secret manuals. Finally, they found a secret technique that could allow them to capture the immortal spirit herb. Their original plan was to use that secret technique to capture the immortal spirit herb and bring it back to the spiritual state. Unfortunately, their plan could not keep up with the changes. An ancient emperor had intervened, so they had to change their original plan. However, we have to convince Shun Feng first. Although Qin Yu seemed to be a member of Sky Imperial Palace, they could not control Qin Yu at all. This made Sun Jiuxiao sigh. When Sun Shiyu first came to Qin Yu's Sky Imperial Palace, she was only a mere martial ancestor. Now, in the blink of an eye, she had become an existence that they feared. Chapter 538. I'll talk to Shin Feng. After confirming that Qin Yu was a reincarnator, Shi Tiangang wasn't confident that he could convince Qin Yu. But now, he could only talk to Emperor Sky Palace. Not to mention that Qin Yu currently possessed the absolute initiative position in the Heavenly Imperial Palace. Just the fact that he was a divine emperor in his previous life meant that he couldn't be underestimated. Then I'll go and prepare. Sun Jiuxiao turned and left. Although the situation in spiritual state had stabilized due to the conflict between the martial forces in the northeast, they still couldn't leave openly. However, they still couldn't leave the Heavenly Imperial Palace openly. If they could avoid detection, they would do their best to avoid detection. Shi Tiangang pondered for a while and left the hall. Go to Middle State? In the palace, Qin Yu was slightly stunned when he heard Shi Tiangong's words. That's right. The immortal spiritual herb appeared in Middle State because of the intervention of the ancient emperors. So we're thinking Shi Tiangang didn't hide anything and directly told Sun Jiuxiao's plan. Are you sure you can catch the immortal spiritual herb? Qin Yu thought for a while and asked. It's hard to say, but there's at least a 70 to 80% chance. Shi Tiangang nodded heavily. All right, let's go together. Qin Yu nodded and agreed. Seeing Qin Yu agree so readily, Shi Tiangang heaved a sigh of relief. He thought that Qin Yu would take the opportunity to raise some conditions and was prepared to pay a huge price. Now, it would appear that to Qin Yu, their Heavenly Imperial Palace was truly only a temporary hiding place. There was simply nothing for him to covet. Middle State. After Shi Tiangang left, Qin Yu muttered to himself with a deep luster in his eyes. Almost all the top experts of the Heaven Domain gathered in Middle State. Qin Yu's enemies in his previous life, the Star Luo Empire and the 12 Ancient Emperors, were all powerful existences that had a firm foothold in Middle State. Qin Yu wanted to take the opportunity to find out more about the 12 Ancient Emperors during the Heaven ranking of the 9 states. Unfortunately, the appearance of the extraterritorial demon race disrupted his plan. This was a good opportunity for Xiao Chun to take a good look at the central province after thousands of years and see how it had changed. In any case, Qin Yu no longer needed the protection of the Sky Emperor Palace like before. Therefore, Qin Yu could act on his own in the central state. 2 days later, the well-prepared descendants of the 3 emperors quietly left the heavenly imperial palace with Qin Yu. This time, the descendants of the 3 sovereigns were led by Shi Tiangang, Shi Tianyun, Sun Jiuxiao, and the other core sovereigns were also brought along. In addition, Qi Shi Ri and the other top emperor realm masters, who were controlled by the seal, also went with them. It could be said that more than 90% of the Sky Emperor Palace's experts have been taken away by Shi Tiangang. In order to deal with any possible situation, the Heavenly Imperial Palace entered the highest state, and all the clansmen entered the ancestral realm. Only Sun Yunlang, Elder Pang, and the others were responsible for the defense of the Heavenly Imperial Palace. The central state was the place with the most top experts in the 9 states of the Heaven Domain. For a long time, the central continent was also known as the Saint Continent of the Heaven Domain. This was because the central state was where the divine veins of fortune of the Heaven Domain were located. In addition to the divine land and the mysterious descendants of the gods, there were also the 8 states of the Heaven Domain, the human race, the demon race, the alien race, and the ferocious beasts. All the top experts wanted to gain a foothold in the central state and obtain the blessing of the divine veins of fortune. Therefore, although the central state was the most stable place on the surface, the chaos had never stopped. However, there were ancient forces that had flourished in the central state for countless years. Even if there was a great battle in the central state, it would only be a small-scale battle and would not spread out. This also caused most of the regions in the central state, especially the regions of the ancient forces, to be extremely prosperous, and there had never been any chaos. Of course, once there was chaos in the central state, the entire 9 states of the Heaven Domain would inevitably be involved. Such a thing had happened before in history. 10 days later, in the central state, in a glorious ancient city, a group of extraordinary people walked out of the ancient city's teleportation hall. This group of people was the Heavenly Imperial Palace from the spiritual state. Although the central state was vast and boundless, it was divided into 9 regions, known as the 9 divine realms. The place where the Heavenly Imperial Palace was now was the 9th divine realm. Their destination this time was the Saint realm of the central state, where the immortal spirit grass appeared, and it was in the western region of the 9th divine realm. It was rumored that the Saint realm was a place left behind by the ancient sage experts, and it was a famous ancient relic in the central state. It seems that the news has spread completely. After arriving at the 9th divine realm, Shi Tiangang and the others looked at the crowded ancient city with a solemn expression. There were countless teleportation halls in the ancient city, and, at this time, there was an endless stream of experts appearing in the direction of each teleportation hall. Because of the forbidden sky barrier in the ancient city, there was an endless stream of people leaving the ancient city's 12 city gates. Palace Master. After Shi Tiangang and the others arrived, the Emperor Realm Elder of the Heavenly Imperial Palace, who had been in the central state for a long time, immediately appeared. What's the situation in the Saint Realm now? Shi Tiangang went straight to the point and asked. According to the information we have gathered, there are experts from the 9 states of the Heaven Domain. Even the descendants of the gods of the Divine Land have come. Therefore, the situation in the Saint Realm is extremely complicated. The Emperor Realm Master quickly said, "What about the ancient emperors and divine emperors? How many people have come?" This was what Shi Tiangang was most concerned about, because the divine emperors were their biggest obstacle. About this, there's a piece of good news. The Emperor Realm Master said, "Speak." The expressions of Shi Tiangang and the others shook. Could it be that something had happened? Just 7 days ago, Northern Emperor Luan and Divine Lord Qian Crane fought in the Saint Realm, and it even turned into a war between the 2 sects. From the Emperor Realm Elder, Shi Tiangang, Qin Yu, and the others learned about the war that took place in the Saint Realm a few days ago. The ancient emperor who discovered the immortal spirit grass in the dual void secret realm was Northern Emperor Luan of the Northern Sect. Therefore, the Northern Sect wanted to monopolize the entrance to the Void Secret Realm and prevent other forces from entering. They even took advantage of Northern Emperor Luan's presence to injure many people from other forces. Unfortunately, among the cultivators injured by the Northern Sect, there were people from the Thousand Crane Sect of the Ninth Divine Realm. Even more unfortunately, the ancient emperor of the Thousand Crane Sect, Divine Lord Qian Crane, also appeared. The two great ancient emperors clashed directly, and the cultivators of the Northern Sect and the Thousand Crane Sect also fought fiercely. The aftermath of the war caused countless casualties in the Saint Realm. In the end, the war was suppressed only when 5 ancient emperors of the Ninth Divine Realm appeared. Therefore, after a discussion among the ancient emperors, the dual Void Secret Realm was opened. However, regardless of whether they were ancient emperors or divine emperors, they could not enter the double Void Secret Lands. Whoever could get the immortal spirit grass would have to depend on their own ability and luck. The heavens are really helping us. Sure, Tian Gang and the others were excited. No ancient emperors or divine emperors intervened. This way, with the ancient secret techniques they mastered, their chances of getting the immortal spirit grass were much higher. Chapter 539. Northern Emperor Luan. No one from the Heavenly Imperial Palace noticed that Qin Yu's eyes narrowed slightly when he heard Northern Emperor Luan. A bone-chilling light flickered in the depths of his eyes. Northern Emperor Luan was one of the 12 ancient emperors who had besieged him. Qin Yu did not expect to receive news of Northern Emperor Luan as soon as he arrived in the Central State. I'm afraid that other than Northern Emperor Luan, other ancient emperors have gone as well. The dragon soul in the Divine Dragon Ancient Seal said solemnly. Regardless of whether it was Qin Yu or the dragon soul, they both knew how powerful an ancient emperor was. Therefore, Qin Yu could not reveal his identity in this operation. Otherwise, even if Qin Yu had prepared a life-saving measure, he would not be able to escape this calamity. Just you wait. Hearing the dragon soul's words, Qin Yu's expression returned to normal, and a smile even appeared on his face. When he first came to the spiritual state, Qin Yu was only a martial ancestor. He was not even qualified to see the 12 ancient emperors. Now, Qin Yu had finally reached the Emperor Realm and was beginning to come into contact with the Divine Emperor Realm. In the future, it would not take long for him to completely recover his cultivation and step into the Ancient Emperor Realm. As for now, Qin Yu still had to endure and continue to cultivate. Can we enter the Dual Void Secret Realm now? Sure, Tian Gang asked immediately. I heard that the entrance that Northern Emperor Luan opened in the Dual Void Secret Realm is still very chaotic. Many people were directly teleported into the endless void after entering. Now, several ancient emperors are still stabilizing the space at the entrance. If we want to enter, we will have to wait for a few more days. The ancient emperor said, "We will go to the sacred realm now. You have to be prepared to receive us." Sure, Tian Gang thought for a while and instructed. Even if he brought Qin Yu here to refine the immortal spirit grass directly, they might still be targeted. Therefore, they could not rely on the Central State's teleportation array. They had to build their own. After refining the immortal emperor pills and leaving the secret realm, they had to be able to leave immediately. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable if they were delayed. Don't worry, everything is ready, the Emperor Realm Elder said. Let's go. Sure, Tian Gang nodded slightly and immediately led the people of the Sky Imperial Palace to the sacred region. 3 days later, Sure Tian Gang and the others finally arrived at the Ninth Divine Region. They arrived at the sacred domain, the ancient ruins left behind by the ancient sages. Before they could even approach the sacred region, a frightening and vast pressure pressed down from the distant horizon. The pressure was so terrifying that it was as if an ancient sage was suppressing the heavens and the earth. At this time, in the vast and desolate sanctuary, countless powerhouses of the 9 states had gathered. At this time, those who dared to come to the sacred domain were all Emperor Realm Masters. In fact, most of them were high-level and peak Emperor Realm Masters. Pillheart's sacred sect, matchless heavenly sect, spirit snake holy ground, thousand crane divine sect. Qin Yu's gaze swept across the large forces that had gathered. There were many great powers here, and Qin Yu had dealt with all of them in his previous life. Some of them were friends, while some of them were enemies. Qingbei's sect. Suddenly, Qin Yu's eyes narrowed. Qingbei's sect of Emperor Luan was indeed there, but he did not see Emperor Luan. After looking at it for a while, Qin Yu calmly moved his gaze away and continued to size it up. Other than Emperor Luan Bei, the forces of Emperor God Xianyu, Emperor God Tan, and Ghost Emperor Jintian were also present. After scanning all the forces present, Qin Yu looked at the entrance of the dual void secret realm and narrowed his eyes. From the chaotic and destructive space entrance, Qin Yu vaguely sensed several familiar auras. They were the auras of Emperor Luan, Emperor God Xianyu, and Emperor Taiyan. As for Ghost Emperor Jintian, Qin Yu did not notice him, so he should not be here. After observing for a while, Qin Yu withdrew his gaze and waited quietly. It seemed that even if the ancient emperors joined forces, it would still take a long time to completely stabilize the entrance of the dual void secret realm. They don't seem to have found the real entrance. In the divine dragon ancient seal, the dragon's soul slightly emitted the power of space and time. After a while, the dragon's soul spoke. I heard that this entrance was forcefully opened by Emperor Luan. Qin Yu said and suddenly paused. Dragon soul, can you sense the real entrance? If they could enter in advance, it would be greatly beneficial for them to catch the immortal spirit grass. We have found the real entrance, but it is not far from them. Once we try to break the seal, they will immediately notice us. The dragon soul said, it seems that we can only wait. At a time like this, Qin Yu would naturally not do such a thing to show off. Even if he had reached the emperor realm, there was still a huge gap between him and a divine emperor. Not to mention an ancient emperor who had reached the peak of the divine emperor realm. Time passed slowly, and more experts gathered in the sacred region. Just a rough estimate showed that there were hundreds of thousands of them. This didn't even include the experts who were hiding in the dark and didn't show themselves. The strength of the 9 provinces of the Heaven Domain was undoubtedly displayed at this moment. Tian Gang and the others from the Heavenly Imperial Palace looked at the increasing number of Emperor Realm Masters and could not help but look more and more solemn. Even if they had secret techniques, it was definitely not easy to snatch the immortal spirit grass from the hands of so many Emperor Realm Masters. If they were not careful, they might all die here. With the presence of several ancient emperors, although there were many experts gathered in the holy region, there were no conflicts between them. All the experts who had gathered were waiting quietly. Shio. Just like this, after 5 days, 6 figures with oppressive auras flashed out of the entrance of the sealed world. All the experts in the Saint Domain were visibly moved, and their gazes all shifted to that direction. Emperor Luan, Emperor God, Xianyu, Emperor Taiyan. Qin Yu, who was meditating cross-legged, also opened his eyes and looked over. When he saw Emperor Luan and the other 2, his pupils could not help but shrink, and the killing intent in his heart soared. Fortunately, Qin Yu immediately came to his senses, and the killing intent in his heart disappeared. Although there were many Emperor Realm Masters gathered in the Sacred Region ruins. But with the ancient Emperor's means, if the killing intent was clearly directed at them, they could instantly find the source of the killing intent. Everyone, don't you all feel that there are too many people here? Emperor Luan looked at the hundreds of thousands of Emperor Realm Masters who were ready to make a move, and his face turned ugly. He was the first person to discover that the immortal spirit grass was located in the dual void sealed world. He was also the one who had sealed the unstable secret realm. Even the entrance to the sealed world was opened by him. Now, other cultivators were enjoying the fruits of his labor. Emperor Luan was a little unhappy. If it were an ordinary item, he would not care about it with his status as the ancient emperor. But the immortal spirit grass was a true immortal herb. It was a huge temptation for them who had always wanted to break through to the emperor realm and cross the 9th layer of the martial path. If the matter had not been blown out of proportion, Emperor Luan would not have let anyone in. Chapter 540. Northern Emperor Luan, you've already given your word. Are you going back on your word now? A cold snort sounded. It was Sir God Qianhe, who had fought with Northern Emperor Luan a few days ago. I just think that since we're the ones who have stabilized the entrance, why don't we let the cultivators from our sect enter and fight for it? Northern Emperor Luan suggested, ignoring Sir God Qianhe's unfriendly tone. That's not right. If we don't allow the martial artists from other forces to enter, then we'll have to deal with them. It won't be long before the other ancient emperors of the Central Plains arrive. By then, the situation will be out of our control. Emperor God Xianyu and the others looked at each other. They seemed to be tempted, but Emperor Taiyan shook his head slowly. Compared to the Emperor Realm Masters present, they were more oppressive. However, many of those forces had ancient emperors behind them. Once they angered the crowd, it would be difficult for them to clean up the mess. Emperor Taiyan is right. Since we've already given our word, we can't go back on our word. Saint Master Pilheart also spoke up. Are you afraid that the cultivators in your sect won't be as good as the other forces? Sir God Qianhe sneered. I can't say for the other forces, but at the very least, the cultivators in my sect won't be afraid of your thousand-crane divine sect. Instead of making sarcastic remarks, you're more worried that the cultivators in your sect won't be able to come out alive. Northern Emperor Luan snorted when she saw that the other ancient emperors didn't agree. Same here. Killing intent surged in Sir God Qianhe's eyes. All right, get ready to open the entrance to the sealed world. Saint Master Pilheart, Emperor God Xianyu, and the others changed the topic when they saw that Sir God Qianhe and Northern Emperor Luan were about to fight. Xiao xiao xiao. After the ancient emperors gave their orders, the Emperor Realm Masters gathered in the ancient ruins' sacred domain became excited. The cultivators from the major forces entered the dual void-sealed world in an orderly manner. The leading force was naturally the cultivators under Northern Emperor Luan and the other ancient emperors. Halfway through, a divine emperor suppressed his cultivation and disguised himself as an ordinary top-tier Emperor Realm Master to enter. In the end, he was trapped in the spirit seals of several ancient emperors and almost lost his life. This scene made many divine sovereigns who were ready to make a move immediately calm down. It was basically impossible to cross the sea under the watchful eyes of several ancient emperors. Let's get ready to move. After more than half an hour, seeing that nearly half of the Emperor Realm Masters in the sacred domain had entered, Shi Tiangang led the Heavenly Imperial Palace's group to stand up. Whoosh! The power of the Tao surged. Shi Tiangang waved his sleeve, and everyone from the Heavenly Imperial Palace turned into a beam of light and entered the entrance of the secret realm. Although the entrance to the sealed world wasn't very big, dozens of Emperor Realm Masters would enter at any given moment. This is the dual void secret realm. On the white mountain peak, Qin Yu sized up his surroundings. Shi Tiangang, Sun Jiuxiao, and the others were on high alert. Everyone in the Heavenly Imperial Palace was no stranger to secret realms, but double secret realms were extremely rare. Other than Qin Yu and Shi Tiangang, no one else in the Heavenly Imperial Palace had truly entered the dual void secret realm. The so-called dual void secret realm referred to two overlapping secret realms. In one space, there were two completely independent secret realms. This situation also caused the space in the dual void secret realm to be extremely weak and chaotic. Therefore, if one stepped into some weak areas in the secret realm, it was very likely that one would be teleported to another secret realm in an instant. If one was unlucky and entered a chaotic area, it would be bad luck. Instead of being teleported to another secret realm, one would be teleported directly into the turbulent flow of space. The most fatal thing was that the weak and chaotic space was extremely difficult to detect. Even an Emperor Realm Master would have to be extremely cautious. This way, after entering, Shi Tiangang took out an ancient compass. It was Sun Guxing's divination compass. Sun Guxing should have been the one leading this operation. Unfortunately, Sun Guxing was still unconscious, so Sure Tiangang had to do it personally. As Sure Tiangang poured his true qi into the ancient compass, he quickly determined the direction. Leading Sure Tiangang and the others, he rushed in a certain direction. In this dual void secret realm, none of them dared to fly and could only travel on foot. They did not want to encounter any weak void and be unable to react in time. While they were traveling, Qin Yu let the dragon soul secretly use its space-time ability to sense the surrounding void. Roar! After crossing hundreds of miles and collecting many ancient spirit herbs, everyone in the heavenly imperial palace suddenly heard a violent beast roar. It's at least a peak emperor realm fierce beast, Sun Jiuxiao said after carefully sensing. It's here. As soon as Sun Jiuxiao's voice fell, Sure Tiangang suddenly shouted. From the ancient forest on their left, a ferocious giant wolf with 3 heads and barbs all over its body pounced out with an incomparably terrifying bloody and ferocious aura. Ancient exotic beast, 3-headed demon wolf. Sure Tiangang and the others immediately attacked, using their divine abilities and secret techniques. A violent battle broke out, causing the void to tremble violently. Qin Yu did not participate in the battle. Although the 3-headed demon wolf was an ancient exotic beast, its potential had not been fully tapped and had not reached the divine emperor realm. It was just a peak emperor realm cultivation, so it was impossible for it to be a match for Sure Tiangang and the others. The battle broke out in an instant, but it soon came to an end. Under the siege of Sure Tiangang and the others, the 3-headed demon wolf finally fled in a sorry state. Sure Tiangang and the others did not chase after it and continued in the direction where they sensed the immortal spirit herbs. Along the way, the heavenly imperial palace and the others encountered more and more fierce beasts and strange beasts. They even encountered a divine emperor realm exotic beast, so they had no choice but to take a long detour. The combat strength of a divine emperor realm ancient exotic beast was not any weaker than a human divine emperor. When Qin Yu followed the heavenly imperial palace to search for the immortal spirit herbs in a primitive mountain range in the dual void secret realm, 2 figures were fighting against 2 peak emperor realm exotic beasts. The violent and destructive aftermath of the battle had destroyed more than half of the primitive mountain range. Of the 2, one was a silver-haired, good-for-nothing in armor, holding an ancient halberd. The other was dressed in black, holding an ancient sword. His sword aura soared to the sky, as if it was going to cut through the sky. Both of their cultivations were astonishing, and their auras were extremely terrifying. However, if Qin Yu were here, he would definitely be shocked. These 2 were his 2 disciples from his previous life, Pam Hong and Tai Shu Kong. However, compared to the high-level Emperor Realm cultivation in the spiritual state's void space, both Pam Hong and Tai Shu Kong had reached the peak Emperor Realm. In just a few years, their cultivation had made such great progress. It could be seen that both of them had obtained some kind of opportunity. The battle lasted for a quarter of an hour before it ended. The 2 peak Emperor Realm exotic beasts were killed by Pam Hong and Tai Shu Kong using secret techniques. Eldest senior brother, are you sure the immortal spirit herbs are in this secret realm? Tai Shu Kong asked Pam Hong after putting away the corpses of the 2 beasts. This dual void secret realm had 2 secret realms. If they were not sure, Tai Shu Kong felt that it was better to enter a secret realm separately. Chapter 541. Although I don't know the exact location, Second Martial Ant's spiritual treasure should not be wrong. Pam Hong had an yin-yang jade pendant in his hand. At this moment, the yin-yang jade pendant was emitting a faint light. Junior brother's situation is getting worse. I hope the immortal spirit grass can relieve the ghost curse in his body. There was a hint of anxiety in Tai Shu Kong's eyes. If the immortal spirit grass was not used, then let's get the immortal spirit grass first. If the immortal spirit grass can't help, then we will hide in the kneeling ground sacred ground. Now that master is not here, nothing must happen to junior brother. Pam Hong said solemnly. Long Hao had been in a coma because he went to find the ghost emperor Jin Tian. His condition was getting worse and worse. Therefore, the people of the Ghost Emperor's sacred island must have a way to relieve the ghost curse. It was just that the risk was too great. Although the news was confirmed that the Ghost Emperor Gentian had been in seclusion to heal his injuries, that did not mean that it was easy to sneak into the Ghost Emperor's sacred island. What's more, it was even more difficult to find a way to relieve the ghost curse condensed by the Ghost Emperor. Unfortunately, if Second Martial Ant could help, it would be much easier. Tai Shu Kong was a little helpless. Second Martial Ant will still fall into a deep sleep from time to time. It's better not to tell her about these things. Pam Hong shook his head and put away the yin yang jade pendant in his hand. Then, the two of them flew away at top speed. 2 days later, in an ancient forest full of towering ancient trees, Qin Yu and the others of the Sky Emperor Palace were resting. Looking at the chaotic aura on their bodies, it seemed that they had just gone through a great battle. After following us for so long, it seems that they are ready to take action. Suddenly, the dragon's soul's eyes flashed. Hearing this, Qin Yu quietly informed Shi Tiangang and the others. As early as a day ago, he found that someone was secretly following them. It's just that because there were people following them in the dark, there was no movement at all. Thus, Qin Yu and them did not alert the enemy. Boom! Suddenly, it was like a clap of thunder in the clear sky. In the void, dozens of blue thunderbolts 100 feet in size fell without warning. The momentum was so terrifying that it seemed to directly blast the people of the Sky Emperor Palace into pieces. Immortal Stone Emperor's Seal. Shi Tiangang reacted instantly, and a huge Immortal Stone Emperor's Seal appeared. The blue lightning bolts that came crashing down were all blocked. Blue lightning. Qin Yu narrowed his eyes. In the heaven domain, there were countless lightning Dao secret arts. However, blue thunderbolts were extremely rare. Moreover, blue thunderbolts were the original spells of a large clan in the Qingyun domain. You sneaky bastard, come out. Sun Jiuxiao roared angrily. Divine light flickered between his hands, and then he suddenly slammed the ground. Immediately, there seemed to be some kind of creature crawling underground, and the ground quickly protruded and agitated. Bang! Bang! In the next moment, a series of violent collisions rang out from deep within the forest. Immediately after, the violent power of the Dao swept out, and large areas of the ancient forest were destroyed. Everything within a radius of several hundred miles was instantly razed to the ground. People surrounded by blue lightning appeared in the line of sight of the Sky Emperor Palace and the others. That is, when Shi Tiangang saw those people, his pupils involuntarily contracted. As expected, Qin Yu's eyes flashed. Strange, why would the Thunder Dragon clan target someone from Sky Palace? The dragon's soul also recognized them, and it muttered to itself in confusion. The Thunder Dragon clan was one of the most powerful foreign clans in the Barren State. It was a foreign clan that ruled the Barren State. Its status was even higher than some of the immortal sacred grounds in the Middle State, and its foundation was also unfathomable. It was rumored that the Thunder Dragon clan was a mutation of the descendants of the True Dragon. Many of their ancestors were existences that were comparable to Khanate life forms. They had slaughtered immortals in the primordial age, and had also killed gods in ancient times. Among the clans in the Heaven Domain, they were definitely one of the most powerful clans. However, the Thunder Dragon clan had never offended the forces of the other states in the Heaven Domain, and had always stayed in the Barren State. Of course, even the top forces of the Middle State would not provoke the Thunder Dragon clan for no reason. Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul were a little puzzled that the Thunder Dragon clan would attack Sky Emperor Palace. They did not know how these two major forces in two different states had offended each other. The royal family of the Barren State, the Thunder Dragon clan? What's going on? Why would the Thunder Dragon clan attack us? Sun Jiuxiao and the others also recognized the Thunder Dragon clan, and they were also very puzzled. If they were besieged after obtaining the immortal spiritual herb, it would make sense. But now, they were attacked for no reason, and they could not figure it out. Shi Tiangong's solemn eyes flashed with a sharp light. Judging from the fact that the Thunder Dragon clan had followed them all the way and attacked them, the Thunder Dragon clan must have recognized the wrong people. In other words, the Thunder Dragon clan was coming for them. Although he did not know the reason, since the other party wanted to kill them, sure Tian Gang naturally would not sit still. 9. Thunder Dragon. The Thunder Dragon clan did not waste any time, and they all turned into blue thunderbolts and rushed towards Sky Emperor Palace and the others. As they rushed out, the vast and majestic thunderbolts swept out like a shocking tsunami. They turned into a giant thunderbolt dragon that was thousands of feet long and wanted to devour the people of Sky Emperor Palace. Immortal Stone Emperor Seal. Heaven's War Emperor Transformation. 3,000 Heavenly Mantra. 1,000 Buddha Hands. Shi Tian Gang, Sun Jiuxiao, and the others all attacked with all their strength, and one secret skill after another was displayed. The giant thunderbolt dragon was immediately stopped in midair. Layers of Tao skill shock waves swept out continuously, and wherever they passed, the void shattered inch by inch, and the sky trembled. Qin Yu's figure flashed, and he retreated behind Shi Tian Gang and the others. This time, Sky Emperor Palace had sent 7 top sovereigns and more than 30 high-level sovereigns. The Thunder Dragon clan only had 5 top sovereigns and less than 20 high-level sovereigns. Judging from this battle strength, Sky Emperor Palace had the absolute advantage, and Qin Yu did not need to attack at all. Something's not right. But when Qin Yu retreated, his body suddenly stiffened, and the dragon's soul also let out a soft cry of surprise. They could clearly feel that there were several extremely terrifying auras among the Thunder Dragon clan that were firmly locked onto him. Could it be that they are coming for me? Qin Yu became more and more puzzled. Whether it was in his previous life or now, he had no grudges with the Thunder Dragon clan. However, just in case, Qin Yu took out a newly refined spirit array disc in his left palm. One by one, the formation flags silently fused into the ground. Qin Yu's current strength was enough to fight against top sovereigns. But if he wanted to defeat or even kill top sovereigns, he still had to rely on the power of Array Tao. When Sky Emperor Palace fought against the Thousand Mountain Cauldron, Qin Yu had relied on the chaos of the ancient divine power and the chaotic sky divine array to suppress and kill the Thousand Mountain Cauldron. Whoosh! Sure enough, the situation was as Qin Yu had anticipated. In the midst of the fierce battle, a top sovereigns of the Thunder Dragon clan used a secret skill to escape and directly leaped over the people of Sky Emperor Palace to pounce on Qin Yu. As he pounced, an ancient sword appeared in his hand. With a slash of the sword, countless sharp lightning sword chi tore through the void and swept toward Qin Yu. Chapter 542. Are they really coming for me? Qin Yu waved his right hand, and the indestructible Stone Emperor seal appeared. However, the Thundersword Chi was extremely powerful. Qin Yu's indestructible Stone Emperor seal was directly torn to pieces. Swish! 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 Qin Yu took a few steps forward when he saw this. Illusory phantoms flickered within a radius of 10 feet. All of the lightning sword chi were dodged. Swish! The top Emperor Realm Master of the Thunder Python clan flashed with blue lightning as he rushed to Qin Yu in an instant. Before the person arrived, a torrent-like blue thunderbolt appeared and swept over in a mighty manner. Swallow! Qin Yu growled as a layer of purple lightning flickered on his body. In the next moment, the blue thunderbolts that were sweeping over with a frightening might completely disappeared. The purple lightning on Qin Yu's body vaguely turned into a purple lightning vortex and swallowed all the blue lightning. Is that the divine thunder of annihilation? The cold eyes of the top Emperor Realm Master of the Thunder Python clan flashed with horror. The divine thunder of annihilation was the legendary divine ability of the purple thunder divine cloud dragon. This divine thunder was even more powerful and terrifying than the Thunder Python clans. Qin Yu actually had the divine thunder of annihilation. However, he had already rushed to Qin Yu and did not think too much about it. The ancient sword in his hand was covered with thunder inscriptions. A bone-piercing blue sword light appeared, and a series of spatial cracks appeared in the void. Every sword ray contained an incomparably terrifying power of thunder, which was enough to easily kill a high-level Emperor Realmmaster. Array seal. This time, Chinyu did not dodge. He just stomped his right foot on the ground. Immediately, the ground exploded, and beams of ancient inscriptions shot out like dragons emerging from the sea. In an instant, they turned into an ancient divine array that covered most of the sky. The top Emperor Realmmaster of the Thunder Python clan swung his sword and slashed out the blue sword light. It was directly shattered by the ancient inscriptions. Not only the top Emperor Realmmaster, but the other Emperor Realmmasters of the Thunder Python clan were also covered by the ancient array. Chinyu's eyes flashed with a cold light. The sky-splitting spear transformed, condensing a vast ancient divine power. Immediately after, he thrust his spear at the Thunder Dragon clan's top Emperor Master. He wanted to see why the Thunder WYRM clan would target him. Rumble. With a thrust of the spear, the power of the five gods' heaven subduing formation was immediately drawn to the Thunder Dragon clan's top emperor. Under the attack of the spear, the surrounding space started to distort. One could imagine how powerful that spear strike of Chinyu's was. What majestic primordial divine power! They could feel the terrifying divine power fluctuations emanating from Chinyu's attack. Everyone from the Thunder Dragon tribe was visibly moved. The peak sovereign who was being attacked by Chinyu suddenly let out a roar like that of a wild beast. Immediately after, blue lightning beast patterns appeared on his skin. Immediately, his entire body was covered in blue lightning beast scales, and his hands turned into dragon claws surrounded by blue lightning. A blue lightning array condensed in front of the half-transformed Emperor Realmmaster. Chinyu's sky-splitting divine spear, which was originally aimed at the Emperor Realmmaster's head. It was directly drawn into the blue lightning array by a mysterious force. Boom! At this moment, the Thunder Dragon clan's top Emperor Realmmaster clapped his claws to the left. Chinyu's spear light was directly moved aside by the blue lightning array. A deafening explosion resounded. A destructive shock wave that was enough to destroy mountains and seas exploded, sweeping across the land. However, it did not cause any injury to the Thunder Dragon clan's top Emperor Realmmaster. Of course, Chinyu had already dispersed the sky-splitting divine spear as soon as the attack was attracted. With a twist of his body, he transformed into a divine weapon again and controlled the divine array to charge forward. Swoosh! At this moment, Tian Gang also reacted and rushed over. Together with Chinyu, they rushed toward the Thunder Dragon clan's top Emperor Realmmaster. Thunder Heaven Divine Claw. The Thunder Dragon clan's top Emperor Realmmaster was not afraid even in the face of their attacks. The power of thunder flickered on his blue lightning beast scales. Immediately, he crossed his claws and tore at the void. Two huge Thunder Dragon claws condensed and bombarded Chinyu and Tian Gang with mighty divine power. This is, at the moment of collision, Chinyu's ancient divine power condensed and vaguely felt that it was out of control. Fortunately, the moment that feeling appeared, Chinyu immediately suppressed it and instead blasted out an even more majestic ancient divine power. Pucci. The Thunder Dragon clan's top Emperor Realmmaster was immediately sent flying by the spear, a huge bloody hole appearing on his body. Tiangong's reaction was also very fast. He formed a seal with both hands and used the Three Emperors' Divine Power secret technique to blast the Thunder Dragon clan's top Emperor Realmmaster far away. Is the Thunder Dragon clan also related to the extraterritorial demon clan? The dragon's soul also sensed it in an instant, and a hint of surprise appeared in its eyes. The fluctuation emitted by the Thunder Dragon clan's top Emperor Realmmaster was very similar to that of the Myriad Mountain Cauldron. If the Dragon Soul's guess was true, the reason why the Thunder Dragon clan targeted Sky Emperor Palace, and even targeted Chinyu, was obvious. Have they already sensed it? A cold light flashed in Chinyu's eyes. After the internal strife last time, Yu suspected that the Myriad Mountain Cauldron was just a clone. The extraterritorial demon clan might associate him with the person who took away the God Slayer sword and the ancient heavenly rock spirit. Now it seemed that his guess was most likely true. Although Qin Yu's current appearance was not Shun Feng's appearance. Everyone in Sky Emperor Palace knew that he was Shun Feng in disguise. As long as the extraterritorial demon clan captured anyone in Sky Emperor Palace, they would know everything. At that time, his special disguise to deal with the Myriad Mountain Cauldron would be in vain. Shun Feng, the fluctuation on his body just now, was it ancient divine power? The graveness in Tiangong's sharp gaze became increasingly serious. Although the ancient divine power in his body had been completely stripped away, he still sensed the fluctuation of divine power emitted by the top emperor of the Thunder Dragon clan just now. It must be known that the Myriad Mountain Cauldron had almost wiped out all the higher-ups of Sky Emperor Palace. Tiangong naturally had a fresh memory of that divine power fluctuation. It should be. I'm afraid that the Thunder Dragon clan has a close relationship with the extraterritorial demon clan. They must have attacked us to confirm that I am the one who suppressed the Myriad Mountain Cauldron. Qin Yu transmitted his voice. Tiangong's eyes twitched. When Qin Yu told him that the birth of the ancient divine power was planned by the extraterritorial demon clan, they did not say anything. They just kept thinking of ways to purify the ancient divine power. The reason was that they did not want the extraterritorial demon clan to target Sky Emperor Palace. But now it seemed that they could not avoid it. The others in Sky Emperor Palace no longer have the ancient divine power, but he can control it. The top emperor of the Thunder Dragon clan, who had been severely injured and sent flying by Qin Yu and Tiangong, stabilized his body and stared at Tiangong and Qin Yu with a strange light in his eyes. The flesh and blood inside the bloody hole that Qin Yu had pierced into his body was rolling about. His injuries were healed in an instant. This was not a secret technique, but a talent of the Thunder Dragon clan. Chapter 543. If Sky Emperor Palace and the others no longer have the ancient divine power in their bodies, it means not only can he control the ancient divine power, but he can also strip the divine power from the warriors. The top emperor of the Thunder Dragon clan stared at the cold Qin Yu with a strange look in his eyes. The importance of this news was far beyond their expectations. This sort of thing, how exactly did Qin Yu accomplish it? We can't let them leave alive. Tiangong immediately made a decision after hearing Qin Yu's voice transmission. It was impossible to send out secret messages in this dual void secret realm. In other words, as long as these people of the Thunder Dragon clan were all left here, there was still a chance for them to salvage the situation. Otherwise, even if Qin Yu left Sky Emperor Palace and drew a clear line with them, the extraterritorial demon race would still find them. After the previous battle, the spiritual state had now regarded Qin Yu as a core figure of Sky Emperor Palace. Now, Sky Emperor Palace couldn't cut ties with Qin Yu just because he left. Tiangong knew that even if he killed all the people of the Thunder Dragon clan here, he might not be able to hide this news from the extraterritorial demon race. But at the very least, they could delay for a while. If they could delay until the immortal Emperor Pill was successfully refined, the bloodline of the three emperors in their bodies would be reignited. At that time, even if they were targeted by the extraterritorial demon race, it wouldn't be a big deal. Kill! Tiangong shouted and took the lead to rush out. The power of the Tao of Destruction shook with astonishing power. The people of Sky Emperor Palace didn't know why Tiangong's killing intent suddenly skyrocketed. But after seeing Tiangong go all out, they also went all out. Azure Dragon fights the heavens. Qin Yu held the sky-splitting divine spear tightly in his hand. Azure Dragon patterns spread out in his flesh and bones. An extremely terrifying aura spread out from Qin Yu's body. Just as Tiangong said, they couldn't let the people of the Thunder Dragon clan leave alive. The extraterritorial demon race had been preparing for the ancient divine power plan for a long time. The Myriad Martial Sect and the Thunder Dragon clan were definitely not the only ones who had infiltrated the Heaven Realm. Once the extraterritorial devil race knew of his identity, they would definitely come to kill him. The extraterritorial demon clan would never allow him to purify the god power of the warriors of the heaven domain and ruin their plan. He actually hid his strength. The expression of the peak emperor of the Thunder Dragon clan, who had just recovered from his injuries and was fighting against Shi Tiangang, suddenly changed. The aura that Qin Yu was emitting right now made his heart palpitate. He had a feeling of extreme danger. Looks like we can only retreat for now. Immediately, the top Emperor Realm Master of the Thunder Mantis clan transmitted his voice and prepared to withdraw. With Qin Yu's current strength, it was already impossible for them to capture him alive or even defeat him. Since that was the case, there was no need to keep it. In any case, their investigation mission had been completed, and the matter of dealing with the Imperial Palace of Heaven would be handled by others. Trying to run? When Qin Yu saw through the Lightning Mantis clan's intention, the coldness in his eyes became even sharper. Within the five gods' heaven subduing formation, 5 types of mantras and abhijnas surged, emitting an incomparably terrifying aura. The next moment, streaks of ancient curse runes with unparalleled power fell from the sky and swept toward the Thunder Mantis clan. These ancient curse runes did not have any offensive power, but they contained a supreme, sealing, divine ability. Even the void was faintly showing signs of being sealed. The Thunder Mantis clan, who had been preparing to retreat, did not dare to be careless. Swoosh! Qin Yu's figure broke through the air as fast as lightning, instantly appearing in front of the top emperor of the Thunder Dragon clan, who was fighting against Shi Tiangang. Qin Yu, who had displayed the Azure Dragon battling the heavens, had completely transformed his combat strength. The top emperor of the Thunder Mantis clan was suppressed to the point that he could not fight back. However, during the battle, Qin Yu also discovered that he could not use the divine power imprint to disrupt the divine power of the top emperor of the Thunder Mantis clan. This made Qin Yu feel a little strange and also a little vigilant. It seemed that the divine power imprint was not absolute in dealing with ancient divine power. Ancient space-time killing formation, 9 serenities purgatory, heavenly stellar divine light, apocalyptic divine thunder, 5 elements chaos. Qin Yu continuously displayed the power of Dao techniques and the divine power of the Dragon clan. The top emperor of the Thunder Dragon clan, who had been suppressed to the point of being unable to fight back, was repeatedly injured. Even the self-healing divine power of their clan could not keep up with the speed of Qin Yu's attacks. Sure enough, the secret techniques of the Dragon clan he mastered were not inherited from the Dao space of our ancestors. Seeing Qin Yu display the divine power of the Dragon clan, Shi Tiangang also understood. The secret techniques of the Dragon clan Qin Yu mastered must have been mastered in his previous life. However, this made Shi Tiangang feel that it was a good clue to find out Qin Yu's identity. The secret techniques of the Dragon clan were not very common, even in the Qin Yin realm. Qin Yu had mastered so many secret techniques of the Dragon clan. As long as he had a little reputation in his previous life, they should be able to find some clues. Damn it! How can his strength be so terrifying? The top emperor of the Thunder Dragon clan had completely transformed into a thunder dragon that was dozens of feet long. But even so, under the joint attack of Qin Yu and Shi Tiangang, he was still defeated. What shocked the top emperor of the Thunder Dragon clan was Qin Yu's terrifying combat strength. A mere second-grade Emperor Realm Master, even with the amplification of the ancient divine force, would not be able to reach this level. The secret technique that Qin Yu used later was truly terrifying. Die. Forbidden technique. Sacrifice to the immortals. Qin Yu, who had caught the Thunder Dragon's weakness, had a sharp look in his eyes. He thrust out his spear, causing the void to tremble. Pooh! The scales of the Thunder Dragon shattered as the spear pierced directly into its body. Blood splattered. At this moment, a white light appeared from the tip of the Sky Splitter spear. The Thunder Dragon, whose body was bursting with lightning, suddenly froze. The vitality in its ferocious eyes quickly dissipated. Killed. Sure Tian Gang, who was using his secret technique, suddenly narrowed his eyes. He clearly sensed that the Thunder Dragon's Emperor's soul had been completely annihilated. Its soul had been completely destroyed. How could a top Emperor Realm Master be killed so easily? Sure Tian Gang could not help but feel a chill in his heart. Perhaps only a divine emperor would be able to do it so cleanly and cleanly. Qin Yu had easily killed it with just the enhancement of his secret technique. As expected of someone who could reincarnate, the means he had were simply shocking. After putting away the corpse of the Thunder Dragon, Qin Yu did not hesitate and immediately charged toward the other Thunder Dragon clan members. Sure Tian Gang also reacted immediately and hurriedly followed. The battle became more and more violent. The Thunder Dragon clan, which was already at a disadvantage in terms of combat strength, became more and more dangerous after Qin Yu and Sure Tian Gang joined the battle. One by one, the Thunder Dragon clansmen died at the hands of Qin Yu and the others. The fierce battle quickly came to an end. Chapter 544. If you want to kill us, then let's die together. When the Thunder Python clan only had one top-level Emperor Master and several high-level Emperor Masters, the Thunder Python clan became even more furious. The eyes of the top-level Emperor Master, who was besieged by Qin Yu and the others, flashed with madness. Oh no! Qin Yu, Sure Tian Gang, and the others instantly sensed it. Unfortunately, it was too late. As earth-shattering explosions resounded, the violent, destructive power of the Tao swept across the sky. The five gods' heaven-subduing array trembled violently before it exploded. The area within a radius of a few thousand kilometers was affected by the power of the Tao and was completely destroyed. The Emperor Masters of the Thunder Python clan knew that they could not survive, so they self-destructed. When the destructive power of the Tao technique gradually dissipated, the people of the Sky Emperor Palace had already disappeared. Only the countless deep and terrifying void cracks remained in the void, emitting chaotic void fluctuations. Many Emperor Realm cultivators sensed the terrifying fluctuations and quickly gathered over. But soon, they did not sense the fluctuations of the immortal spirit grass and left together. There were hundreds of thousands of Emperor Realm Masters who came in this time. Those who had ancient emperors or great forces with glorious ancestors all had secret techniques to sense the immortal spirit grass. At this moment, the void rippled slightly above a barren mountain, and a figure stumbled out. It was Qin Yu, who had disappeared. Cough, cough. After coming out, Qin Yu, who was a little pale, could not help but spit out 2 mouthfuls of blood. His injuries are very serious. The space-time force around Qin Yu dissipated, and the dragon soul appeared to sense Qin Yu's injuries. The top-level Emperor Master of the Thunder Python clan was not the only one who self-destructed. The other high-level emperors also self-destructed. Otherwise, the five gods' heaven-subduing array, which had been strengthened by Qin Yu, would have been able to withstand the self-destruction of a top-level Emperor Master. It seems that there are either members of the Thunder Python clan or other forces related to the extraterritorial demon race in this dual void-sealed world. Qin Yu opened his right hand, and a Thunder Beast scale appeared. This Thunder Beast pattern was what the Thunder Python clan wanted to send out when they self-destructed. The reason why Qin Yu was seriously injured was because he wanted to imprison this beast scale. After pondering for a moment, Qin Yu's primordial god force surged out from his palm, crushing the beast scale. Soon after, Qin Yu landed on the barren mountain. He formed a seal with his hands and sat down cross-legged. The dragon chi in his body boiled. About a quarter of an hour later, the serious injuries in Qin Yu's body had completely recovered. After recovering from his injuries, Qin Yu took out the corpses of the Lightning Bolt clan members, and the skeleton Ghost King appeared. Chi, chi, chi. Upon seeing the lightning dragons, the skeleton Ghost King's eyes lit up with a strange light. Immediately, the skeleton Ghost King's bones were covered in countless desolate beast runes. The chi and blood of the thunder hornless dragons gathered toward the skeleton Ghost King at an astonishing speed. The blood chi of 4 peak emperors and more than a dozen high-level emperors. This was a great opportunity for the skeleton ghost king to replenish itself. What's more, the thunder hornless dragons contained powerful mutated beast bloodlines, and their blood chi far exceeded that of ordinary peak emperors. While the skeleton ghost king was devouring the blood chi and blood, Qin Yu flew into the sky. Now that the Emperor Tian Huang and the others were gone, the dragon soul no longer needed to hide its space-time ability. This secret realm space. Qin Yu's expression changed slightly after he sensed it. This is no longer the original secret realm space, the dragon soul said. The dragon soul spoke. He had already sensed it. Hearing this, Qin Yu immediately took out a jade pendant. The jade pendant was intact, which meant that Shi Tiangang was fine. As for the others from the Emperor Tian Huang, it was hard to say. In such a destructive explosion, there would probably be a lot of casualties. You also came to this secret realm? Infusing his true yuan into the jade pendant, Qin Yu sensed Shi Tiangong's aura. Although it was very far away, it was indeed this secret realm space. This meant that the others from the Emperor Tian Huang's palace should be similar. The skeleton ghost king had been devouring the blood chi for more than 2 hours. This was enough to show how powerful the blood chi of those thunder hornless dragons were. Boom! After devouring the blood chi, the wild beast marks on the skeleton ghost king vibrated, and the roar of 10,000 beasts could be vaguely heard. An aura that was more than 10 times stronger than before suddenly erupted. The skeleton ghost king's cultivation had officially stepped into the 7th grade emperor realm. This was a huge increase in combat strength for Qin Yu. With the bloodthirsty heavenly dragon, the skeleton ghost king, and the array Dao, Qin Yu could kill high-level emperors even if he did not use the Azure Dragon Battle the Heavens and other secret techniques. After all, the middle state was not like the spiritual state. Here, Qin Yu knew many people from his previous life. If he did not use the 9 esoteric techniques of the battle dragon, Qin Yu would not easily expose himself in front of others. Just like the Thunder Hornless clan. If they were not related to the extraterritorial demon race, Qin Yu would not use the 9 esoteric techniques of the battle dragon and so many dragon race divine abilities. Putting away the skeleton ghost king, Qin Yu flew towards the void where Shi Tiangang was. After flying for half a day, Qin Yu suddenly sensed a strong fluctuation of spirit qi surging from afar. The spirit qi fluctuation was so strong that half of the sky shook violently. Vaguely, Qin Yu also sensed an extremely pure and blazing fluctuation. Is a treasure appearing? After sensing it carefully, Qin Yu immediately rushed in that direction. This fluctuation seems to be a divine medicine maturing. The closer he was, the clearer Qin Yu and the dragon's soul could sense it. Qin Yu's eyes shone brightly as he looked into the distance. In the depths of a mountain range, shrouded in clouds and mist in the distance, there was a colorful glow that filled the entire mountain range. Qin Yu moved even faster and rushed into the mountain range shrouded in clouds and mist. This time, Qin Yu saw it clearly. Amidst the multicolored light, there was an ancient vine that was completely golden in color and surrounded by translucent golden spirit energy. The ancient vine was at least 10,000 feet long, like a giant mountain that reached the heavens. It was mighty and mighty. At the tip of the ancient vine, a strange golden flower was slowly blooming. Around the strange golden flower, there were 8 flower buds that were waiting to bloom. As the strange golden flower bloomed, the blazing sun in the sky crazily absorbed the vast power of the sun. With the ancient vine as the center, the area within tens of thousands of miles was faintly transformed into a sea of fire. Countless powerful wild beasts and mutated beasts in a mountain range fled in panic. However, the strange thing was that the flowers and trees grew even more luxuriant. It was as if the scattered power of the sun had become their nourishment. It's actually the 9 suns' divine flower. Qin Yu looked at the golden ancient vine that was in the middle of blooming its second bud. His eyes were filled with deep shock. The 9 suns' divine flower was a divine medicine that only appeared in the primordial age. It was born from absorbing the power of the sun. It was rumored that only the primordial age's ancient immortals had cultivated the nine suns' divine flower. As the primordial age and the ancient immortal age passed, the nine suns' divine flower became a legend passed down in various ancient books. It was a divine medicine that appeared more frequently than immortal spirit herbs. Chapter 545. Cheney did not expect such a divine item to exist in this dual void secret realm. More importantly, the nine suns' divine flower was still maturing. Could it be that this dual void secret realm was created by an ancient immortal? This secret realm must have a great background. Cheney narrowed his eyes. The immortal spiritual herb and the nine suns' divine flower had appeared in this secret realm at the same time. This could not be a coincidence. Moreover, when the nine suns' divine flower bloomed, the surrounding situation was too strange. The law of survival in nature had always been the survival of the fittest. Therefore, where many divine herbs were born, not even a blade of grass grew around them. The nine suns' divine flower was even more domineering. Not only was it difficult for plants to survive, but even living creatures were extinct. This was because the energy of all living creatures would be completely absorbed by the nine suns' divine flower. However, the flowers and trees in this ancient forest did not show any signs of withering. Instead, they grew even more luxuriant. This meant that the energy contained in this secret realm was enough to support the blooming of the nine suns' divine flower. Look at the sky. At this moment, the dragon's soul seemed to have noticed something and suddenly spoke. Cheney raised his head to look. He saw that above the nine heavens, nine blazing suns had actually appeared. What's going on? Cheney originally thought that it was an illusion or a formation. However, after taking a closer look, his gaze froze. The nine blazing suns were actually real. In other words, there were nine real suns. What kind of heaven-defying method was needed to condense nine real suns? 9 suns? Is this a heaven and earth vision? It seems like they are real suns. What's going on? In addition to Cheney, many sovereigns in this mountain range have been attracted by the nine suns' divine flowers ripening. Many shocked gazes gathered on the nine suns. Such a shocking heaven and earth vision was completely beyond their understanding. They had no idea what was going on. 9 suns connected to the sky. At this moment, outside the mountain range, a clear gaze was looking at the 9 suns in the sky. It was a handsome young man. His flesh and blood were emitting precious light. Each ray of light contained a special heaven and earth vision. Beside the handsome young man, there was a beautiful young girl in a green dress. The girl's eyes flickered with the light of avarice, like a rainbow. However, what attracted the most attention was the 7-colored divine imprint between her brows. A terrifying soul power that could suppress heaven and earth was being emitted from the 7-colored divine seal. These two people were precisely the Jiang clan's Samsara brother and sister that Cheney had saved on the heavenly dragon continent. Indestructible innate divine body, Jiang Yuan. Immortal Grand Mist Holy Soul, Jiang Qingyu. The 7-colored light in Jiang Qingyu's eyes became even more intense. The 9 blazing suns that stretched across the sky were clearly reflected in her eyes. In Jiang Qingyu's eyes, an extremely profound energy faintly appeared between the 9 blazing suns. It was a power that transcended the laws of heaven and earth. Even the abnormal sign of the 9 suns connecting the sky has appeared. It would appear that the rumor is most likely true. Although Jiang Yuan's voice was calm, there was a fiery look in his eyes. The two siblings had clearly entered the divine emperor realm, but no one knew what method they had used. They had entered the dual void secret realm under the watchful eyes of Northern Emperor Yuan and several other ancient emperors. In the depths of the mountain range, in the void that was only a few hundred miles away from the 9 suns' divine flower, a figure stood on an ancient tree, ignoring the terrifying temperature of the innate sun power, and looked at the vine of the 9 suns' divine flower that was thousands of feet long. This person was dressed in a blood-red robe, and his eyes were also blood-red, as if they were made of blood. In those blood-red eyes, there seemed to be an endless sea of blood surging. It was extremely terrifying. This man was someone that Qin knew. He was the primordial blood demon who had lived since ancient times and sealed himself in the blood demon continent. Ancient celestial pond. I hope I didn't find the wrong place this time. After looking at the 9 suns' divine flower, the blood demon also looked at the 9 blazing suns. His eyes, which seemed to contain a sea of blood, shone brightly. In the mountain range, Qin Yu used the wood escape technique of the 5 elements and hid in an ancient tree. He looked at the 9 suns' divine flower that had already bloomed 3 buds. As the number of 9 suns' divine flower bloomed increased, it absorbed more sun power. Now, the air in the mountain range was faintly distorted. Qin Yu, who was waiting for the 9 suns' divine flower to fully mature before making his move, suddenly changed his expression. Dozens of Emperor Realm Masters had coincidentally arrived at the area where Qin Yu was hiding. Northern Emperor Luan's people. A cold light flashed in the Dragon Soul's eyes. Those people were from Northern Emperor Luan's northern sect. A cold smile appeared on Qin Yu's face. He originally wanted to find the immortal spirit grass and then deal with them. He did not expect to meet them here. Enemies were bound to meet on a narrow road. As expected, it's a divine herb from the immemorial era, the 9 suns' divine flower. The leader of Northern Sect's people was a man with hazy eyes. His cultivation was at the peak of the Emperor Realm. His aura was far more profound than that of an ordinary peak Emperor Realm Master. Obviously, he was not an ordinary peak Emperor Realm Master. This man with hazy eyes was called Li Fenshin, and his emperor name was Burning God Emperor. He was one of Northern Emperor Luan's disciples. Although he had not yet advanced to the Divine Emperor Realm, he had defeated more than 20 peak Emperor Realm Masters and killed 5 of them. One had to know that when one reached the Emperor Realm, especially if one was an Emperor of the same realm, even if it wasn't difficult to kill them, it would still be quite difficult to kill them. From this, one could see how strong Li Fenshin's cultivation was. I didn't expect this sealed world to have the 9 suns' divine flower in addition to the immortal spirit grass. If the Holy Master obtains it, he may be able to surpass the limit of the ancient Emperor Realm. A black-clothed man with peak Emperor Realm cultivation had a fanatical look on his face. If he brought back these 2 great immortal herbs and divine herbs, Great Emperor Luan Tian would probably give him an amazing reward. Let's not talk about the immortal spirit grass first. I'm afraid this 9 suns divine flower will not be so easy to obtain. I just used a secret technique to sense it. At least 1,000 Emperor Realm Masters have been attracted here. Beside Li Fenshin, a white-haired old man said. The Emperor Realm Masters who gathered in this sealed world were basically all people with great backgrounds. The name of Northern Sect alone was not enough to suppress them. After all, even Northern Emperor Luan herself had been kept outside the secret realm. Even if it's not easy, we still have to get it. The 9 suns divine flower is an immemorial divine herb that only appeared in the immemorial era. Since we have encountered it, we must not let it go. Li Fenshin said with a murderous intent. Then we have to find a way to seal the others. But there are so many Emperor Realm Masters. The white-haired old man pondered for a moment. Don't worry. Before we came in, Master gave me a divine weapon. If there are still people who dare to break in, I will really admire them. Li Fenshin sneered. Chapter 546. Form the array. When the 7th bud of a 9 suns divine flower blossomed, Qing-Bei sect and the others, who had been preparing for a long time, immediately took action. Dozens of them formed a large formation that was 100 feet wide. Li Fenshin stood in the middle of the array. Li Fenshin waved his right hand, and an ancient cauldron the size of a palm appeared. The ancient cauldron was surrounded by flames. There were countless flowers, trees, mountains, rivers, and strange beasts on the cauldron. It was like a great world. The Tao skills of the dozens of people turned into a line and surged into the ancient flaming cauldron in Li Fenshin's hand. Sizzle, sizzle. The flowers, trees, and strange beasts on the ancient flaming cauldron glowed with a mysterious light. Within that treasure light, one could clearly see strands of mysterious divine runes appearing and spreading throughout the entire ancient cauldron. One could clearly see that after those mysterious divine runes appeared, the ancient flame cauldron rapidly grew in size. Unseal. Li Finchen, who was holding the ancient cauldron, formed a seal with his hands. With a bang, the ancient flaming cauldron drilled into the ground and disappeared. Disperse. Li Finchen shouted when he saw this. The dozens of Emperor Realm Masters around him immediately turned into rays of light and dispersed with the 1,000-foot-tall 9 Suns ancient vine as the center. It seemed like they were going to surround the 9 Suns ancient vine. After dispersing, Li Finchen and the others quietly merged into the ground. They disappeared without a trace, and no one could sense them at all. The heaven refining divine cauldron? After Qing Bei's sect and the others used their secret technique to burrow into the ground, Qin Yu quietly revealed himself from the ancient tree. Qin Yu recognized the ancient flaming cauldron that Li Finchen took out just now. It was one of the divine weapons of Northern Emperor Yuan, the heaven refining divine cauldron. From the words heaven refining, it was enough to know that the heaven refining divine cauldron had the ability to refine the heavens and earth. It was rumored that the heaven refining divine cauldron was related to the ancient fire god. Among the many divine weapons and artifacts in the heaven domain, its power was one of the best. Qin Yu did not expect that Northern Emperor Yuan would give such a divine weapon to his sect's cultivators in order to fight for the immortal spirit grass. Thinking of this, Qin Yu sneered. Qing Bei's sect and the others must have used the heaven refining divine cauldron to refine the entire 9 Suns divine flower with the help of the divine weapon. The heaven refining cauldron was a divine weapon of extreme yang. In this environment where the power of the sun was extremely abundant, the power of the heaven refining divine cauldron would increase by several times. Even if it couldn't compare to the ancient Emperor Realm's Northern Emperor Yuan Bei, its power was definitely not that of an ordinary peak emperor. However, this was an excellent opportunity for Qin Yu. Although he didn't have the cultivation of a top emperor master, his battle prowess was enough to rival a top emperor. Moreover, Qin Yu was in existence at the pinnacle of the ancient emperor in his previous life. The sky-burning divine cauldron controlled by Li Finchen and the others could not pose much of a threat to him. As for Qin Yu, he could use the burning sky divine cauldron to do many things. Immediately, Qin Yu silently left through the sky, and he vanished within this ancient forest where the air was becoming more and more warped. Asterisk crackle. Asterisk when the 9 Suns divine flower bloomed to its 8th bud. The void was already boiling like boiling water, and even air was constantly exploding. This was because the power of the sun had reached the limit of this world. Under such circumstances, even many high-level Emperor Realm Masters could not withstand it and left the mountain range one after another. For them, this mountain range had now become a scorching sun. Those who remained in this mountain range were either peak Emperor Realm Masters or had amazing secret techniques. Asterisk rumble. Asterisk after half a quarter of an hour, the 9th bud of the 9 Suns divine flower finally bloomed completely. At this moment, at the center of the 9 scorching suns in the sky, a beam of golden sun divine light fell directly on the 9 Suns divine flower. A shock wave of fire that was visible to the naked eye immediately swept out in all directions like an ocean wave. The terrifying momentum was as if the end of the world had arrived. In an instant, the entire mountain range was razed to the ground by the shock wave of the fire. The many Emperor Realm Masters who gathered in this mountain range misjudged the power of the fire shock wave and were all seriously injured. One must know that the beam of sunlight was condensed from the pure power of the sun. Even the power of an Emperor Realm Master's Tao art could not resist it. The 9 Suns divine flower is about to mature. The divine flower has a spirit. Be careful not to let it escape. Get out of my way. In the mountain range, The peak Emperor Realm Masters who had used their secret techniques to resist the fire shock wave moved together and rushed toward the Nine Suns divine flower. This was a divine herb that had only appeared in ancient times. It would be a waste if they did not fight for such a divine item. Many people even started a fight on the way. However, the strange thing was that neither the Jiang siblings nor the mysterious blood demon moved. Their eyes were fixed on the 9 scorching suns in the sky. Or rather, they were staring at the center of the 9 scorching suns, the place where the sun divine light fell. It seemed that there was a treasure more important than the 9 suns divine flower there. Attack! At this time, Li Fenshin and the others from Qingbei sect also made their moves. In a mountain range that had been leveled, a loud rumbling sound like an earthquake resounded. With the 9 suns divine flower as the center, the area within a radius of several thousand feet shook violently. Fiery red divine runes emerged from the ground and covered the surrounding land. Boom, boom, boom. Then, dozens of 1,000-foot-tall, blazing divine lights soared into the sky and surrounded the 9 suns divine flower. Mysterious divine runes intertwined in the blazing divine lights. A huge ancient fire cauldron was formed in an instant. In the center of the ancient fire cauldron was the 1,000-foot-tall 9 suns ancient vine. The 9 suns divine flower, together with its roots, fell into the huge divine rune fire cauldron. Buzz! Buzz! Before anyone could react, the divine rune fire cauldron trembled violently. Immediately, a shocking scene appeared. The divine rune fire cauldron that was originally condensed into a divine rune fire cauldron was completely solid at this moment. A vast divine power that shook the heavens and earth swept across the 9 heavens and 10 earths. That is, Northern Emperor Luan's heaven refining cauldron. Did Northern Emperor Luan come in? No. Judging from this power, it should be the people from Qingbei sect who are activating the heaven refining cauldron. Are the people from Qingbei sect trying to refine all of us? Oomph. How dare they fight against so many of us with the strength of one sect? They are overestimating themselves. Many Emperor Realm Masters had already rushed to the 9 suns divine flower. When the people from Qingbei sect made their move, they immediately jumped into the heaven refining cauldron. This enraged the Emperor Realm Masters. They attacked one after another, causing the heaven refining cauldron to shake violently. The heaven refining cauldron was a real divine weapon. With their cultivation, it was naturally impossible for them to break it. However, it was not easy for a top Emperor Realm Master to control a divine weapon. The fiercer their attacks were, the more energy the people from Qingbei sect had to consume to control the heaven refining cauldron. Chapter 547. Rumble. In addition to the Emperor Realm Masters trapped by the heaven refining divine cauldron, the Emperor Realm Masters outside the heaven refining divine cauldron were also crazily attacking. Although Qingbei sect was a famous sect in the heaven domain, it was still a divine cauldron. Naturally, they would not let go of the primordial divine herb. With the heaven refining divine cauldron as the center, a violent and destructive battle broke out. But for those Emperor Realm Masters, whether it was inside or outside the heaven refining divine cauldron, intense sun force was gathering. It made them feel as if they were being baked by the scorching sun, and their combat strength was greatly reduced. Because of this, many Emperor Realm Masters began to look for Qingbei sect and the others. As long as they found their real bodies, it would not be difficult to break the heaven refining divine cauldron. Unfortunately, Li Fenshin and the others from Qingbei sect had already expected this scene. They had already set up a concealment barrier and used a secret technique to hide, so no one could find them. Chi. In the heaven refining divine cauldron, wisps of divine fire ignited by the sun force were quietly born, burning everything. When the Emperor Realm Masters who attacked crazily came into contact with the sun divine fire, their Tao powers were ignited. This made those Emperor Realm Masters extremely shocked. This was especially so when they saw that the sun god flame was still increasing in number. They were all filled with fear. If this continued, they would be completely refined by the heaven refining divine cauldron. Thinking of this, they immediately went all out, using all kinds of life-saving methods and trump cards. The heaven refining divine cauldron's vibration became more and more intense. This made Li Fengxian and the others from Qing-Bei sect feel even more pressure. Don't worry about them. First, seal the Nine Suns divine flower. Li Fengxian's murderous intent soared in his hazy eyes. Now that those Emperor Realm Masters were restrained, their focus could be placed on sealing the Nine Suns divine flower. At this time, as the sun divine light fell, the 9 blooming divine flowers of the Nine Suns divine flower began to rotate gently. As they rotated, the 9 divine flowers were getting closer and closer. As the dazzling sun divine light flickered, the 9 divine flowers gradually merged with each other. This was the final stage of the Nine Suns divine flowers maturation. Once the 9 divine flowers merged, the Nine Suns divine flower would be born. At that time, the divine flower would gain sentience, and it would be extremely difficult to capture it. Just like the immortal spiritual grass, although it was trapped in the double void secret realm, it was extremely difficult to find it. Therefore, now is the best time to seal the Nine Suns divine flower. Once they missed this opportunity, they might not have such a good opportunity again. The time is almost right. Qin Yu, who was quietly tailing a venerable sovereign of the northern sect, used a secret technique to sense the situation of the Nine Suns divine flower. Immediately, he formed a seal with both hands, and wisps of dragon qi surged behind him. Rumble. As the 9 flowers became more and more condensed and fused, the center of the 9 suns in the sky once again emitted a beam of divine sunlight. A heat wave swept out, injuring all the Emperor Realm Masters trapped inside the heaven refining divine furnace. On the other hand, after the heaven refining divine cauldron absorbed the power of the sun, the power it contained became even more terrifying. This made the situation of the Emperor Realm Masters even worse. On the other hand, Li Fengxian and the rest of the people from Qing-Bei sect were greatly shaken. They began to activate the heaven refining divine cauldron with all their might. Right at this moment, Qin Yu's expression changed slightly, and a look of shock appeared in his eyes. He sensed 3 extremely terrifying auras flying toward the sky at an extremely fast speed. The strength of these auras was definitely at the level of Saint Emperor Realm Masters, and they were not much weaker than the ancient emperor. If that was all, Qin Yu would not be so shocked. The problem was that Qin Yu felt that these 3 auras were quite familiar. It's them. In the divine dragon ancient seal, Qin Yu formed a seal with both hands, preparing to assist him with the force of space and time. Qin Yu's dragon soul also sensed it instantly. The Jiang clan's reincarnation siblings and the blood demon. This made Qin Yu and the dragon soul extremely surprised. They could not help but quietly emerge from the ground and look up. Sure enough, as they sensed, the people flying towards the 9 suns in the sky were the Jiang clan siblings and the blood demon. The Jiang clan siblings had come to the heaven domain a long time ago, so their appearance here was only a little surprising to Qin Yu. However, the fact that the blood devil has also appeared here has shocked Qin Yu. The blood demon had said that he could only seal himself in the blood demon continent and could not leave. Now, why would he appear here? Thinking of this, Qin Yu could not help but look at the 9 suns. Could there be some heaven-defying treasure hidden there? One had to know that whether it was the blood demon or the Jiang clan siblings, they were not ordinary existences. The former was a terrifying existence that had lived from ancient times until now. It would be difficult to find a second one like him in the entire heaven domain. As for the latter, he was a peerless genius from 30,000 years ago. On the day he returned from reincarnation, he directly used the force of reincarnation. Compared to Qin Yu, who had to cultivate slowly, he was more than 1 level stronger. It could be said that these 3 people, at their peak, were definitely existences that had touched the limits of the Emperor realm. The thing that the three of them were interested in was definitely not an ordinary treasure. One had to know that they did not pay attention to the Nine Suns divine flower that was about to mature. Who are those people? They actually dared to fly up directly. Are they tired of living? Could it be a divine emperor expert? It can't be. There are several ancient emperors guarding the entrance to the outside world. It was not only Chinyu, but also the emperors in the mountain range who wanted to break the heaven-refining cauldron and snatch the Nine Suns divine flower. They also noticed the blood demon and the Jiang clan siblings. Voices of astonishment rang out. Under the shocked gazes of the crowd, the blood demon and the Jiang clan siblings disappeared into the Nine Suns. Bang! At this time, the Nine Suns divine flower had completely matured. The 9 divine flowers merged together. It turned into a golden divine flower with 9 petals and a fierce shadow of the sun around it. That was the mature state of the Nine Suns divine flower. Seal. Seeing this, Li Fengxian's eyes flashed with ecstasy. He immediately used a secret technique to transmit his voice. Everyone in the North Sect formed seals and attacked. In the heaven-refining cauldron, flaming divine chains appeared and swept toward the Nine Suns divine flower. The Nine Suns divine flower had already gained intelligence. It turned into a wisp of fire and was about to escape from the ancient vines. However, the flaming divine chains that the North Sect had specially set up contained an extremely powerful sealing force. In an instant, the Nine Suns divine flower was bound and sealed in the void. It's a success. Li Fengxian and the others were overjoyed when they saw this. The sealing of the Nine Suns divine flower was much smoother than they had imagined. Swoosh! However, at this moment, a figure appeared on the 1,000-foot-long golden ancient vines of the Nine Suns divine flower. He was as fast as lightning and appeared in front of the sealed Nine Suns divine flower. It was Chinyu. Kill him. Although Li Fengxian was hidden underground, he knew the situation in the heaven-refining cauldron like the back of his hand. He immediately sensed that Chinyu wanted to get his hands on the Nine Suns divine flower. He immediately controlled the heaven-refining cauldron to kill him. Chapter 548. Boom, boom, boom. As Li Fengxian made his move, the divine fire in the heaven-refining divine cauldron boiled like boiling water. Every wisp of flame exuded a terrifying aura, as if it could burn the world. Many Emperor Realm Masters in the heaven-refining divine cauldron were killed by the boiling flames. Even the top Emperor Realm Masters found it difficult to hold on. This caused their attacks to become even more frantic and urgent. Of course, the one who suffered the most damage was Chinyu, who was rushing toward the Nine Suns divine flower. At this moment, the divine fire in the heaven-refining divine cauldron rushed toward Chinyu crazily. The terrifying power instantly formed a vortex of divine fire that was about to devour Chinyu. Gotcha! But at this critical moment, a crack that was dozens of meters long appeared somewhere in the heaven-refining divine cauldron that was filled with countless mysterious divine crests. The crack was like a natural chasm that separated the most important core divine crests of the heaven-refining divine cauldron. At this moment, the terrifying power of the heaven-refining divine cauldron was weakened countless times. The divine fire that had turned into a vortex inside the cauldron also gradually dissipated. What happened? Li Fengxian's face changed. The divine crests of the divine cauldron were broken, which meant that one of the Emperor Realm Masters who had formed the spirit array to activate the divine cauldron had encountered an accident. Otherwise, the divine crests of the divine cauldron would not have been broken. Who was it that was targeting them in the dark? The heaven-refining divine cauldron is broken. This is not the real heaven-refining divine cauldron. Let's attack together. When Li Fengxian noticed it, the Emperor Realm Masters trapped in the heaven-refining divine cauldron also noticed it immediately. At this moment of life and death, they did not hesitate at all. The top Emperor Realm Masters did their best to attack. Boom! In an instant, The crack on the divine cauldron, which was dozens of meters long, was blasted open. The Emperor Realm Masters fled frantically. At this time, the Emperor Realm Masters were also certain that the heaven-refining divine cauldron was not the real divine cauldron at all. It was only formed by the divine crests and the power of the divine cauldron. Pucci. When the divine cauldron was broken, Li Finchen and the others from the northern sect seemed to suffer a backlash. All of them vomited blood. Their chi and blood became chaotic and weakened. Break. At this moment, Qin Yu, who had arrived in front of the Nine Suns divine flower, slammed his palm against the flame chains. With a sizzling sound, the flame divine runes melted like snow in spring and quickly disappeared. Damn it, take out the divine cauldron. When Li Finchen sensed that scene, he forcibly suppressed the injuries in his body and transmitted his voice using a secret technique. Immediately, everyone from the Great Northern Sect performed hand seals and cast Awa seals deep into the ground. Each of the Tao imprints contained a powerful divine might. That was the source power of Li Finchen and the other disciples of Qingbei's sect. The real heaven-refining divine cauldron was located deep underground, in a place that was covered with hidden barriers. As the Tao imprints fused into it, the heaven-refining divine cauldron immediately trembled as if it was about to break out of the ground. So it's there, underground, Qin Yu, who had killed a peak sovereign master by surprise and destroyed the northern sect's barrier, immediately sensed the aura of the heaven-refining divine cauldron. A cold smile appeared on his face. His figure flashed, and he immediately charged towards the heaven-refining divine cauldron. Seal. When the heaven-refining divine cauldron rushed out of the barrier of Li Finchen and the others and was about to soar into the sky and merge with the huge ancient cauldron array in the sky, Qin Yu suddenly made his move. Divine sealing light and sealing spiritual inscriptions spread out and suppressed the heaven-refining divine cauldron on the spot. Ancient and mysterious divine runes also continuously fused into the heaven-refining divine cauldron. One could clearly see that the flame divine runes on the heaven-refining divine cauldron were replaced by sealing spiritual inscriptions. How could this be? The moment Qin Yu's sealing spiritual inscriptions completely covered the entire heaven-refining divine cauldron. Li Finchen and the other disciples of Qingbei's sect, who were using their secret techniques to summon the entire heaven-refining divine cauldron, were aghast and in disbelief. The heaven-refining divine cauldron was not under their control, and they had lost their perception of it. Quick, let's go and see the divine cauldron. At this moment, Li Finchen, who was pale and panicked, directly burrowed into the ground and rushed towards the heaven-refining divine cauldron without even caring about the Nine Suns divine flower. The heaven-refining divine cauldron was one of Northern Emperor Luan's strongest divine artifacts. If anything happened to it in their hands, they would die 1,000 deaths. Artifact controlling technique, unseal. Noticing that the disciples of Qingbei's sect were flying over, Qin Yu's eyes were extremely cold, and the corner of his lips curled up into a sneer. His hands kept changing seals and sending ancient seals into the heaven-refining divine cauldron. Hong Long Long. The heaven-refining divine cauldron rumbled as monstrous divine flames swept out like a volcanic eruption. In an instant, with the heaven-refining divine cauldron as the center, the land within a 1,000-kilometer radius immediately turned into a world of fire, and the mountain range disappeared completely. Countless Emperor Realm Masters who had gathered immediately retreated and escaped from the world of fire. From the world of flames, they could feel the true presence of death. If they continued to stay, only death would await them. Heaven refining. Qin Yu's rapidly changing hand seals suddenly froze as he shouted. The heaven-refining divine cauldron was like an awakened ancient beast as it crazily grew in size. In the blink of an eye, it became several thousand meters tall. Li Finchen and the other disciples of Qingbei's sect, as well as the 1,000-meter-tall Nine Suns ancient vine and Nine Suns divine flower, were all enveloped by it. The heaven-refining divine cauldron is completely unsealed. Li Finchen and the others who were rushing over suddenly froze in the void as they stared blankly at the scene in front of them. Even if they attacked with all their might, they couldn't completely unseal the power of the heaven-refining divine cauldron. The person who sees the heaven-refining divine cauldron in an instant did it so easily. Could it be that an ancient Emperor Realm Master had sneaked in? Apart from this possibility, they couldn't think of anyone else who could do it. After all, the heaven-refining divine cauldron was a divine artifact refined by Northern Emperor Luan. Unless it was an existence of the same cultivation level, it was absolutely impossible to break the seal of the heaven-refining divine cauldron so easily. Dragon Soul, Skeleton Ghost King, you can make your move now. Qin Yu ignored the shock of Qingbei's sect and the others. After he completely unsealed the heaven-refining divine cauldron with his supreme secret technique, the artifact-controlling technique, he directly rushed towards the Nine Suns Divine Flower. Now, the Nine Suns Divine Flower had been mostly destroyed by the Dragon Chi derivation technique. Now was the best time to seize the Nine Suns Divine Flower. When Qin Yu rushed out, a violent and bloodthirsty smell of blood swept out, and a 1,000-meter-long blood-red dragon shadow appeared. It was the bloodthirsty heavenly dragon that was controlled by the Dragon Soul. Along with the appearance of the bloodthirsty heavenly dragon was the Skeleton Ghost King, who had reached the 7th grade Emperor realm. In the hollow eyes of the Skeleton Ghost King, a light that was as deep as a black hole flickered as the ghost eye of extermination merged with the Skeleton Ghost King once again. Chapter 549. To be precise, the Ghost Eye of Destruction had been completely upgraded to the Ghost Ancestor's Divine Eye. Whether it was the destruction or spirit-sealing divine ability, their power had increased by several levels. In addition, there was also the Ghost Seal, which could suppress all Ghost Out techniques. Although the Ghost Seal had no effect on Qingbei's sect and the others, the destruction and spirit-sealing divine ability were enough to deal with peak sovereigns. When the power of the Ghost Eye of Destruction continued to increase, divine sovereigns and even peak ancient emperors will be able to break the seal. Roar! The violent and bloodthirsty dragon roar echoed in the heaven-refining divine cauldron, which had turned into a world of divine fire. After the dragon soul appeared, it immediately controlled the bloodthirsty heavenly dragon and used the bloodthirsty hell to attack without any hesitation. The Skeleton Ghost King's body flashed with ancient desolate beast runes as it used the boundless 10,000 beasts. Countless desolate beast phantoms appeared and rushed toward Qingbei's sect and the others. Now, the heaven-refining divine cauldron was completely under Qin Yu's control. This world of divine fire, which could burn heaven and earth, was no threat to Qin Yu's dragon soul at all. However, Qingbei's sect and the others were constantly being burned by the divine fire and had to use all their strength to resist. Under such circumstances, even with only the dragon soul and the skeleton, they were still able to deal significant damage to the Northern Sect Master and the others. Although there were no casualties among the peak sovereigns, there were already more than a dozen high-level sovereigns. At this moment, Qin Yu's body rushed over. The clone of the Dragon Chi derivation technique also joined the battle, causing Qingbei's sect and the others to be in an even worse situation. Battle Dragon 8 trigrams. As for Qin Yu himself, he formed 8 Battle Dragon talisman arrays in a row, forming an 8 trigram seal. Boom! The Nine Suns Divine Flower seemed to have sensed danger. The majestic power of the sun burst out and completely drowned Qin Yu. This was the purest power of the sun that had been condensed by absorbing the 9 suns. It was enough to burn everything. Devour. However, Qin Yu did not avoid it at all. As the power of the sun rushed toward him, the golden divine fire on Qin Yu's body burned. The golden flames seemed to have a mind of their own as they frantically devoured the pure power of the sun. It was the golden flame heaven incinerating fire. The golden flame heaven incinerating dragon was a dragon left behind by the ancestors of the Heavenly Emperor Palace. Although he didn't know if it was a mutation or something else, the golden heaven incinerating flame had the ability to devour other spiritual flames to strengthen itself. The power of the sun was the best nourishment for the golden heaven incinerating flame. This was also the important reason why Qin Yu wanted to fight for the Nine Suns Divine Flower. This was because the Nine Suns Divine Flower would allow the golden flame heaven incinerating dragon to undergo a complete transformation. As for Qin Yu, other than using the Nine Suns Divine Flower as a catalyst to refine many rare and precious divine pills, he himself did not really need the Nine Suns Divine Flower. To Qin Yu, even an ancient divine medicine was not as useful as a drop of dragon blood. Because only the origin dragon blood was refined, Qin Yu did not suffer any side effects. Seal. Qin Yu used the golden flame heaven incinerating fire to devour the power of the sun. At the same time, he used the battle dragon 8 trigrams to completely seal the 9 yang divine flower. After sealing, a smile appeared on Qin Yu's face as he stored the Nine Suns divine flower into the ancient seal of the dragon god. Immediately, Qin Yu looked at the people of Qingbei's sect who were fighting with the skeleton ghost king. Swoosh! The god slayer appeared in Qin Yu's hand as he flew out at top speed. In order not to expose his identity, Qin Yu did not use the 3 emperors' divine ability, although the people of Qingbei's sect were now trapped in the heaven refining cauldron. But no one could be sure that they did not have the means to escape. So, just in case, Qin Yu did not want to expose his identity. After all, he still needed to use the heaven refining cauldron to do some other things. With the god slayer in his hand, Qin Yu, whose body was full of ancient divine power, started a massacre. One by one, the sovereigns of Qingbei's sect were killed by Qin Yu in an instant. Their blood and qi were crazily devoured by the skeleton ghost king. Damn it! How dare you kill the people of Qingbei's sect? Do you know the consequences of doing so? Even the top sovereigns could not resist Qin Yu under the suppression of the ancient divine weapon, the heaven refining cauldron. They had no choice but to use the name of Chaotic Sky, Great Emperor, in an attempt to intimidate Qin Yu. Chaotic Sky, Great Emperor's name can't protect you here. The coldness in Qin Yu's eyes became even more intense. The God Slayer suddenly slashed out with unparalleled sword power and violent divine power. The divine fire in the heaven refining cauldron also moved. With one slash, the top sovereigns who had tried their best to resist were beheaded. Then, Qin Yu continued to attack. One by one, the people of Qingbei's sect fell at the hands of Qin Yu. Who the hell are you? Seeing the people of Qingbei's sect being killed by Qin Yu one by one, Li Fengxian's eyes bulged as he stared at Qin Yu with monstrous killing intent. He originally thought that the person who unsealed the heaven refining cauldron was an ancient emperor realm master. But Qin Yu's appearance was far beyond his expectations. Although he was not sure of Qin Yu's specific cultivation, he was definitely not a top sovereigns, let alone divine sovereigns and ancient emperors. How could such a cultivation level control the heaven refining cauldron? They could not figure it out at all. Die! Qin Yu ignored him and used the Dragon Clan's divine ability, 9 Nether Purgatory. Li Fengxian's vision turned black. Before he could react, he was killed by Qin Yu's sword and his emperor soul was annihilated. Hong Long Long. With Qin Yu's participation, the pressure on the dragon soul and the skeleton ghost king was greatly reduced, and their combat strength doubled. One by one, the sovereigns of Qingbei's sect were killed. Soon, the dozens of sovereigns of Qingbei's sect were all slaughtered. The skeleton ghost king used its divine ability, boundless 10,000 beasts, controlling the phantoms of the desolate beasts to devour their vitality. Dozens of sovereigns and more than 10 top sovereigns. After refining the blood qi, the skeleton ghost king's cultivation was bound to rise to another level. With the 9 Suns divine flower and the annihilation of Qingbei's sect, Qin Yu's goal was achieved. He put away the dragon soul and the skeleton ghost king and held the heaven refining cauldron in his palm. As for the world of fire, It soon dissipated as the golden heaven incinerating flames devoured the fire essence. However, Chinyu did not leave. He looked up at the 9 suns in the sky. Chinyu did not know if it was an illusion, but he felt that the 9 suns seemed to have dimmed a lot. There's an extremely dangerous aura in the 9 suns. The dragon soul saw that Chinyu was a little restless and said, the dragon soul was not lying. The danger of the 9 suns made him feel a real sense of death. Not to mention the current Chinyu. Even a divine sovereigns would be in danger if they broke in. Chinyu squinted his eyes slightly. He had indeed sensed danger, but great fortuitous opportunities often came with danger. This dual void secret realm might be related to the ancient immortals of the immemorial era. The Blood Demon and the Jiang clan siblings rushed into the 9 suns without caring about their own safety. Therefore, Chinyu felt that there should be a great secret hidden in the 9 suns. Chapter 550. Rumble. Just as Chinyu was pondering whether he should rush into the 9 suns to find out what was going on, an earth-shattering explosion suddenly came from the 9 suns. The 9 suns in the sky suddenly exploded at this moment, and surging waves swept over in an unbridled manner. The destructive momentum caused the boundless dual void secret realm to tremble violently. Countless living beings felt their hearts palpitate, as if doomsday was about to arrive. Even Chinyu's body suddenly sank a few hundred feet. He was suppressed by the destructive momentum and could not help but sink. One could imagine how terrifying the power of the 9 suns exploding was. But at this moment, Chinyu's eyes suddenly narrowed. Amidst the waves that could destroy the sun, 3 figures broke through the waves and charged out at an extremely fast speed. They were the Blood Demon and the Jiang siblings who had rushed into the 9 suns earlier. Looking at their current appearance, they were in a sorry state, and they even seemed to have suffered serious injuries. However, to be able to charge out from such a destructive power, Chinyu was unable to refrain himself from being shocked. The cultivation of these 3 people was indeed unfathomable. Where did that person come from? At this moment, Jiang Yuanyi, whose indestructible divine body shone brightly, was in the void. After rushing out of the destructive area, he looked back at the sky with an unconcealable look of horror in his eyes. He doesn't seem to be from the Qingyin realm. Jiang Qingyu, who had the rainbow divine seal between her eyebrows and was emitting rainbow soul power, had a serious look in her eyes. That person's cultivation was so strong that it was beyond their imagination. Even though they had gone through reincarnation and mastered the power of reincarnation, they could not do anything to him. Such means were definitely not from the Qingyin realm. That guy has the aura of the immortal treasury on him. In the void hundreds of miles away from the Jiang siblings, the Blood Demon, who was dressed in a blood-red robe and had eyes like a sea of blood, was shocked. The aura of the immortal treasury was naturally the power of an ancient immortal. In other words, that person was most likely an ancient immortal who had survived from the primordial age. Above the sky where Shui Mo and the Jiang clan siblings were staring intently, there was a figure who seemed to be in a different dimension of space. The destructive waves of the 9 suns explosion did not cause any injuries to him. Your cultivation recovered quite quickly. That figure didn't care about Blood Demon and the Jiang siblings. Instead, he looked at another figure with interest. That person was Chinyu. If Chinyu saw this person's appearance, he would be stunned. This man's appearance was actually exactly the same as Chinyu from his previous life. If this person were to walk out now, he would definitely be mistaken for the Dragon God Emperor from 1,000 years ago. More importantly, there were mysterious marks floating in the void behind that person. The image of a dragon could be seen within each of those markings. Those dragon silhouettes were the origin dragon seals that sealed the dragon clan's remarkable abilities. After Chinyu reincarnated, the origin dragon marks had all disappeared. Unexpectedly, all of Chinyu's origin dragon marks had fallen into the hands of this person. After looking at Chinyu for a while, The person who looked exactly like Qin Yu in his previous life turned around with a strange smile and disappeared into the void. In the sky, the destructive waves of the Nine Suns explosion also gradually dissipated. The sky became clear again. The Nine Suns did not leave any trace. Whoosh, whoosh. The moment that person disappeared, Blood Demon and the Jiang clan siblings immediately broke through the void and disappeared from the sky. It was as if they had barged into the void where that person was. After a while, Qin Yu also flew into the sky. However, there was no trace left in the sky. The Blood Demon and the Jiang siblings had disappeared without a trace. After thinking for a while, Qin Yu did not stay for long. He stepped out and disappeared into the void. The Nine Suns disappeared. Not only that, but the Nine Suns Divine Flower and the Qingbei sect are also gone. What in the world happened? I don't know. In comparison, I'm more curious about the origins of those four people. It seems that many divine emperors have sneaked into the dual-sealed world this time. Since the Nine Suns Divine Flower has been taken away by the Qingbei sect, let's hurry up and find the immortal spirit grass. Not long after Qin Yu left, the Emperor Realm Masters who had retreated gathered again. However, they could not find any useful information at this time. After a while, they all left quickly. Their purpose in entering the dual-sealed world was to find the immortal spirit grass. At this time, Qin Yu, who had taken away the divine herb and the divine cauldron, came to a swamp in the sealed world. After setting up a barrier in the surroundings, Qin Yu directly burrowed into the ground. After opening up an open space in the depths of the ground, Qin Yu entered the divine dragon ancient seal. Dragon Soul, open the source dragon world. Qin Yu set up an altar and removed the seal on the Nine Suns Divine Flower. He placed it behind the altar and said to the Dragon Soul, "Roar." The Dragon Soul understood. As the primal chaos dragon Qi spread out, a blazing flame swept out. The golden flames heaven incinerating dragon, who had sensed the fluctuations of the Nine Suns Divine Flower, immediately rushed out of the primal chaos dragon world. After coming out, the golden flames heaven incinerating dragon stared at the Nine Suns Divine Flower with its huge dragon eyes, but it did not dare to rush up. This was not because it was sealed by Qin Yu, but because the energy contained in the Nine Suns Divine Flower was too terrifying. If it swallowed it directly, even with its dragon race body, it would probably be burned to ashes in an instant. Secret technique, split. Since Qin Yu had called the golden flames heaven incinerating dragon out, he naturally had a way to let the golden flames heaven incinerating dragon fuse with the power of the Nine Suns Divine Flower. Qin Yu's hands quickly formed seals. In the altar, an 8 trigrams array was cast on the Nine Suns Divine Flower. Immediately, the 9 petals of the Nine Suns Divine Flower were separated and sealed by Qin Yu. These 9 petals could be used as a medicinal catalyst in the future. In the 8 directions of the 8 trigrams array, a pure golden flame flowed out. Under the guidance of Qin Yu, the 8 golden flames poured onto the dragon soul and the golden flames heaven incinerating dragon. As they refined the power of the Nine Suns Divine Flower, they could clearly feel it. The cultivation of the dragon soul and the golden flames heaven incinerating dragon was rising at an astonishing speed. The dragon soul's cultivation had already reached grade 9 Martial Emperor. Now, with the power of the immemorial divine herb, it should not be difficult for it to break through to the Emperor realm. As for the golden flames heaven incinerating dragon, if it wanted to break through to the Emperor realm, it would have to pass the form transformation tribulation. The double void secret realm contained the terrifying Tao of heaven and earth. But Qin Yu could feel that the golden flames heaven incinerating dragon could not pass the tribulation here. So, the golden flames heaven incinerating dragon was only accumulating power now. After going out, it would pass the form transformation tribulation and make a breakthrough in one go. Apart from that, the golden flames heaven incinerating dragon was also crazily devouring the power of the sun contained in the Nine Suns Divine Flower. The power it emitted was also becoming stronger. Chapter 551. Time passed quickly as Qin Yu helped the dragon soul and the golden flame heaven-burning dragon refine the Nine Suns divine flower. It took more than 3 months to refine the Nine Suns divine flower before the golden flame heaven-burning dragon reached its limit. The golden flame heaven-burning dragon's cultivation had also successfully reached the peak of the martial emperor realm and could undergo the manifestation thunder tribulation at any time. As for the dragon soul, it had already broken through to the emperor realm a month ago. However, after breaking through to the emperor realm, the dragon soul did not refine the Nine Suns body anymore and began to consolidate its realm. To a certain extent, the dragon soul and Qin Yu were the same. Only by devouring the source dragon blood could they improve their cultivation without any side effects. The dragon soul did not have such concerns in the early stage, but when it reached the emperor realm, it began to look like Qin Yu and focused on consolidating its foundation. The dragon soul still remembered Qin Yu's unstable foundation in his previous life and had been stuck at the peak of the emperor realm. In this life, the dragon soul, who wanted to walk the path of battle, naturally did not want to encounter such a situation. As its cultivation reached the emperor realm, the dragon soul comprehended another space-time divine ability, and its attainments in space-time techniques became deeper and deeper. Now it can make time flow 20 times faster. Therefore, the 3 months Qin Yu spent in the ancient dragon god seal space was only a few days in the outside world. As for the Nine Suns divine flower, after being refined by the dragon soul and the golden flame heaven-burning dragon for 3 months, it still contained more than 60% of its medicinal efficacy. This was enough to show how strong the energy contained in the Nine Suns divine flower was. After the golden flame heaven-burning dragon passed the manifestation thunder tribulation, its cultivation would probably take a huge leap with the energy of the Nine Suns divine flower. As for the purple thunder divine cloud dragon, it walked the path of thunder. Although it did not conflict with the attributes of the Nine Suns divine flower, it was definitely not an easy task to refine the power of the Nine Suns divine flower that had absorbed the power of the sun. Therefore, it did not absorb the power of the Nine Suns divine flower and continued to devour the pills refined by Qin Yu to strengthen its cultivation. After Qin Yu sealed the Nine Suns divine flower on the altar, he left the ancient dragon god seal space. Although the Nine Suns divine flower was an immemorial divine herb, it was still just a divine herb. Compared to real immortal herbs and immortal spiritual herbs, there was still a huge gap. However, the number of times the Nine Suns divine flower appeared was even less than the immortal spiritual herbs. The rarer something was, the more precious it was. That was why so many sovereigns were fighting over the Nine Suns divine flower. Of course, this was also because the Nine Suns divine flower was a rare divine medicine. After sensing for a bit, Qin Yu sensed the direction where Shi Tiangong was, but a hint of surprise appeared on his face. On Shi Tiangong's body, there was also Qin Yu's perception jade token. Therefore, as long as Qin Yu did not deliberately conceal his fluctuations, Shi Tiangong would also be able to sense where Qin Yu was. This was a jade pendant that Sun Yunlang had specially crafted before he left the Imperial Palace of Heaven. The goal was to prevent this from happening. But now, Shi Tiangong, who was originally approaching in his direction, suddenly changed directions. In such a situation, they were either in danger and had no choice but to flee. Otherwise, they had already discovered the location of the immortal spirit grass and were now heading towards it to fight for it. Thinking of this, Qin Yu immediately flew into the void. Of course, Qin Yu's actions were not just to help the Imperial Palace of Heaven refine the immortal Emperor Pill. Just like how he wanted to fight for the Nine Suns divine flower, he did not only want to mess with the North Emperor's people. Whether it was the Nine Suns divine flower or the immortal spiritual herbs, they were both immortal treasures that could only be obtained through heaven-defying luck. And the several immortal pills that Qin Yu had mastered all required the Nine Suns divine flower and the immortal spiritual herbs. Since the Imperial Palace of Heaven had a secret technique that could allow them to obtain the immortal spiritual herbs, Qin Yu naturally would not let go of this opportunity. Rumble. After flying for tens of thousands of kilometers, Qin Yu stopped in front of a giant river. In that giant river, a great battle was taking place. Wind and rain intersected, lightning flashed, the earth shook, and the sky trembled. The momentum was terrifying. The two sides of the battle were 5 top Emperor Realm Masters and a giant green python. The giant python's appearance was very strange. Its abdomen actually had 6 sharp claws. Although it was 1 against 6, the 6-clawed giant python was not at a disadvantage at all. Accompanied by a roar, wind, rain, thunder, and lightning were all summoned, causing the entire sky above the giant river to become violent and destructive. Great Yin Divine Sect. A cold light flashed in Qin Yu's eyes. He did not expect that after messing with the North Emperor's northern sect, he would encounter the Great Yin Emperor's people. As for the 6-clawed giant python, it was an ancient fierce beast, the 6-clawed heavenly azure python. It was a pure-blooded fierce beast, and its potential was comparable to a saint beast or even a divine beast. In the history of the Heaven Domain, there was a mature, 6-clawed heavenly azure python that directly ruled all the wild beasts and strange beasts in the Heaven Domain. It was an overlord of an era. Chirp, chirp. At this moment, a crisp sound came from the divine dragon Ancient Seal. It was the young immortal phoenix that had been in a deep slumber after devouring the immortal phoenix's body. It was unknown when it woke up. Qin Yu released the young immortal phoenix. After this deep sleep, the young immortal phoenix had changed significantly. Its body was 2 fists bigger, although it still looked cute. However, its aura was more than 10 times stronger than before. Qin Yu estimated that the young immortal phoenix's cultivation was comparable to the martial Emperor realm. It had only been a few months since it was born, and its cultivation had already reached the martial Emperor realm. This made him sigh. The potential of a pure-blooded immortal beast descendant was simply terrifying. Chirp, chirp. After the young immortal phoenix appeared, it flew around Qin Yu, and its purple eyes stared at the 6-clawed heavenly azure python. If it was not for its weak cultivation, the young immortal phoenix would have already charged forward. You want to devour the 6-clawed heavenly azure python? Qin Yu understood the young immortal phoenix's intention, and he chuckled. It was a good opportunity to suppress the 6-clawed heavenly azure python and the people of the Great Yin Divine Sect. Immediately, Qin Yu sneaked over and summoned the Dragon Soul and the Skeleton Ghost King to launch a destructive attack. Sneak attack. You're courting death. The 5 sovereigns of the Great Yin Divine Sect, who were fighting the 6-clawed heavenly azure python, instantly sensed Qin Yu's attack. They could not care less about fighting the 6-clawed heavenly azure python, and they immediately took precautions. Ancient Space-Time Killing Array. Ancient Divine Force. 9. Nether Purgatory. World Extinguishing Divine Lightning. Heavenly Stellar Divine Light. Soul Devouring Curse. However, the 5 of them still underestimated Qin Yu's combat strength. As soon as the 2 sides came into contact, the 5 of them were sent flying by Qin Yu's continuous Dragon Race super skills. With the help of the Dragon Soul and the Skeleton Ghost King, they were sent flying and injured, and it was a dead end. As expected, the Dragon Soul and the Skeleton Ghost King executed their super skills and secret skills, instantly killing 3 of them. As for the other 2, they were killed by Qin Yu, who was attacking unceasingly. The battle started suddenly, and it ended quickly as well. As for the 6-clawed heavenly azure python, although it had extraordinary combat strength, it was also killed by Qin Yu and the other 2. When the battle had just ended, Qin Yu, who was capturing a sovereign spirit, suddenly sensed something and looked down. Within the giant river, 2 figures stared at him in shock and disbelief. Those 2 were Qin Yu's disciples from his previous life, Pan Hong and Tai Shu Kong. Chapter 552. Pam Hong, Tai Shu Kong. He controlled the bloodthirsty heavenly dragon and prepared to return to the dragon's soul in the ancient seal of the dragon god. Seeing Pam Hong and Tai Shu Kong holding a water lotus in their hands, his gaze froze. Looks like I can't hide my identity anymore. Qin Yu looked at his two disciples' gazes and knew that Pam Hong and Tai Shu Kong must have noticed. In order to kill the 5 top sovereigns of the great Yin divine sect in the shortest time possible, Qin Yu used the 9 esoteric battle dragon, the killing intent of the gods, the power of space-time, and the soul-devouring curse. When Pam Hong and Tai Shu Kong were still weak, Qin Yu had met with an accident in the graveyard of the immortal god. The two of them didn't really inherit much of Qin Yu's legacy. However, it was naturally impossible for them to not recognize Qin Yu's trump cards, divine abilities, and secret techniques. Is it really, Master? Pam Hong and Tai Shu Kong looked at Qin Yu in a daze, their faces full of disbelief. As Qin Yu had expected, the two of them had recognized the divine powers and secret techniques that Qin Yu had used. Except for Qin Yu, even they, who had been accepted as disciples by Qin Yu, hadn't learned these divine powers. Of course, except for the divine powers and secret techniques that Qin Yu had used. The familiar fluctuation of the dragon soul on the bloodthirsty heavenly dragon allowed them to confirm Qin Yu's identity. Divine powers and secret techniques could be inherited, but the dragon soul was almost a twin to Qin Yu. This was definitely not fake. Chirp, chirp. When the atmosphere became a little quiet, the young immortal phoenix let out a crisp cry. The young immortal phoenix flew directly from Qin Yu and landed on top of the 6-clawed heavenly azure python. As the purple divine light scattered, the 6-clawed heavenly azure python's huge body was directly swept by the purple light and swallowed by the young immortal phoenix. The young immortal phoenix, which was only the size of a palm, swallowed a giant python that was dozens of feet long. This scene was extremely shocking, but the young immortal phoenix's body seemed to contain endless space. After swallowing the 6-clawed heavenly azure python, it still smacked its little mouth as if it wanted to continue. Long time no see, the immortal phoenix cub's actions made Qin Yu come back to his senses. Since he might be recognized, Qin Yu directly flew down from the sky. Although his face did not change, the fluctuation of his spiritual origin was not sealed. The situation was very different from when he met Pam Hong in the evil demon sea of the spiritual state. Qin Yu had enough strength, so there was no need to continue hiding his identity from them. Master, is it really you? Sensing the familiar soul power fluctuations on Qin Yu's body, Pam Hong and Tai Shu Kong were both extremely excited. During the past 1,000 years, they had traveled all over the heaven realm and the outer realm, imagining countless times that they might find Qin Yu. But now, Qin Yu had truly appeared before their eyes. This instead made them feel as if they were in a dream that they did not dare to believe. The two of them were of ordinary birth and did not have any great background. They were only accepted as disciples by Qin Yu by coincidence, and their lives changed from then on. Hence, in their hearts, Qin Yu was both a master and a father, not just a simple master-disciple relationship. Both of you have advanced to peak sovereign venerables. It looks like you have not neglected your cultivation in the past few years. Qin Yu smiled with gratification as he looked at Pam Hong and Tai Shu Kong, whose eyes were somewhat red. Although Xing Luo, whom Xiao Chan trusted with his heart, betrayed him, the 3 disciples he accepted did not disappoint him. Master, you're still alive. Thank goodness. Pam Hong and Tai Shu Kong cried tears of joy. However, they quickly wiped away their tears, as if they were afraid of being reprimanded by Qin Yu. Although thousands of years had passed, when they stood before Qin Yu, they felt like they had returned to their youth when they were being supervised in their cultivation. Oh, so many years have passed. Why haven't the two of you grown up at all? A somewhat joyful and mocking laughter sounded. It was the dragon's soul that had manifested from the bloodthirsty, slaughter, heavenly dragon. Dragon soul, it really is you. I thought I sensed wrongly. I didn't expect you to have also advanced to sovereign venerables. Pam Hong and Tai Shu Kong laughed when they saw the dragon soul, who looked somewhat similar to Qin Yu in his previous life. In his previous life, Qin Yu had devoted himself to cultivation. Although he had taught the martial arts, he did not have much time to guide and supervise their cultivation. Most of the time, it was the dragon soul who guided them. Hence, they were not so restrained in front of the dragon soul. However, thousands of years had passed, and they who had just come into contact with the martial Tao had already reached peak sovereign venerables. The dragon soul, who had guided them in the past, had also advanced from the martial ancestor realm to the sovereign venerables. Both of them had undergone a complete transformation. You two brats, although your cultivation has become stronger, you can't mess up your seniority. Come, call me little martial uncle again. The dragon's soul crossed its arms and said with a smile, Little martial uncle, we are much stronger than you now. Aren't you afraid that we will take revenge on you? Pam Hong and Tai Shu Kong threatened with a smile. It seems that I haven't taught you a lesson for a long time. Your skin is itching again. The dragon's soul ground its small canine teeth and snorted in an unfriendly tone. This is not a place to stay for long. Let's leave first. Qin Yu interrupted the dragon soul's laughter and immediately flew into the sky. When he flew into the sky, the young immortal phoenix that had swallowed the six-clawed heavenly azure python and landed on Qin Yu's shoulder quietly stared at the water lotus in Pam Hong's hand. Whoosh! While they were not paying attention, a purple divine light brushed past and directly imprisoned the water lotus, swallowing it in one gulp. A young immortal beast? Is this the son of a celestial emperor? Pam Hong and Tai Shu Kong only reacted when the tens of thousands of years old sacred medicine that they had secretly seized from the giant river was snatched away. They looked at the young immortal phoenix on Qin Yu's shoulder, and their gazes froze. Although they had lived for thousands of years, it was the first time they had seen a young immortal beast. Moreover, it was the son of an immortal phoenix, which was even rarer. This little glutton, looking at the young immortal phoenix jumping on his shoulder with a satisfied expression, Qin Yu smiled helplessly. Fortunately, the young immortal phoenix was only interested in the heaven and earth spiritual treasures and the ancient beast bloodline. Otherwise, if it swallowed everything, it would have to fight with the skeleton ghost king every day. Soon, Qin Yu and the other three appeared in a hidden mountain range. Master, you came to this secret realm this time for the immortal spirit herb? In a spacious cave in the mountain range, Pam Hong and Tai Shu Kong stood respectfully in front of Qin Yu. They did not ask much about Qin Yu's current state. When Qin Yu wanted to tell them, he would naturally tell them. If he did not want to tell them, they would not ask too much. Looks like you guys are also here. Qin Yu signaled Pam Hong and Tai Shu Kong to sit down. Master, do you know about Junior Brothers matter? Pam Hong and Tai Shu Kong looked at each other and then asked. I heard a little about it. Qin Yu nodded slightly and talked about Long Hao's news when he was in the 7 great martial realms, as well as Long Hao's family. Actually, the reason why we came to look for the immortal spirit herb is because of Junior Brother, Pam Hong said solemnly. Chapter 553. Long Hao was saved by you. Qin Yu's eyes lit up. According to the news he had received, Long Hao had disappeared after his battle with Ghost Emperor Jintian. Unexpectedly, Pam Hong and Tai Shu Kong had secretly saved him. In that case, Long Hao's life was not in danger. That's right. We have sealed Junior Brother in the Netherworld Cold Cave. Tai Shu Kong nodded. Sealed in the Netherworld Cold Cave? What's going on? Qin Yu's eyes narrowed slightly. It seemed that even if Long Hao's life was not in danger, his situation was more serious than he had imagined. Junior Brother fought with Ghost Emperor Jintian. Although he did not die, he was cursed by Ghost Emperor Jintian. However, he had been cursed by Ghost Emperor Jintian and hadn't woken up until now. We had no choice but to use the sealing power of the Netherworld Cold Cave to alleviate Junior Brother's situation. Pam Hong explained Long Hao's situation in detail. Cursed by Ghost Emperor Jintian? what kind of ghost Emperor Zhen Tian is. Qin Yu asked. Qin Yu probably knew more about Ghost Emperor Zhen Tian's means than the people of Ghost Emperor Holy Island. In his previous life, Qin Yu had fought with Ghost Emperor Zhen Tian many times before he was plotted against by Xing Luo. Therefore, Qin Yu also had a corresponding way to break Ghost Emperor Zhen Tian's Ghost Emperor Zhen Tian's Ghost Emperor Zhen Tian. It looks like this. Pam Hong's right hand moved, and a white light flickered, and a light screen condensed. On the light screen, there was a grayish-brown, trembling Ghost Emperor Zhen Tian. It looked like an undying, ferocious, poisonous snake. I have never seen such a Ghost Emperor Zhen Tian before. The Dragon Soul looked at it and frowned slightly. It had accompanied Qin Yu from the martial emperor to the ancient emperor. It knew almost everything that Qin Yu knew. It seems that I have to go and see for myself to confirm the situation. Qin Yu looked at the grayish-brown Ghost Emperor Zhen Tian for a while, but he did not see anything. However, now that he had the Ghost Emperor Zhen Tian's divine eye, Qin Yu was quite confident in the Ghost Emperor Zhen Tian's Ghost Emperor Holy Island's Ghost Emperor Zhen Tian. When Pan Hong and Tai Shu Kong heard this, they were overjoyed. Qin Yu's alchemy skills were comparable to those ancient Emperor Realm experts who had achieved the Great Emperor Realm through alchemy. If he personally took action, he could definitely resolve the ghost curse in Long Hao's body. What happened back then? Why would Long Hao look for Ghost Emperor Zhen Tian? He should have just broken through to the Emperor Realm at that time, right? Then, Qin Yu asked the question in his heart. Although Long Hao's temperament was stubborn, he was not an impulsive person. No matter how smart Long Hao was, he knew that he had no chance of winning and would only be sending himself to his death. The fact that Long Hao was able to escape from Ghost Emperor Zhen Tian further confirmed Qin Yu's guess. Long Hao's cultivation was definitely not as simple as just breaking through to the Emperor Realm. Otherwise, let alone an Emperor Realm Master, even an ordinary divine Emperor Realm Master would find it difficult to escape from a master who had been bestowed the title of Ancient Emperor. We don't know the specifics either. After little junior brother broke through to the Emperor Realm, he went to the Eternal Sword Tomb and only came back after 10 years. When little junior brother came back, for some reason, he was very angry and directly killed his way to the Ghost Emperor Holy Island. Pan Hong's voice was a little low. At that time, they had just reached the peak of the martial Emperor Realm and could not stop Long Hao at all. Eternal Sword Tomb. Qin Yu's eyes flashed slightly. The Eternal Sword Tomb was a forbidden area in the divine land of the heavenly domain. It was left behind by an invincible sword immortal from ancient times. It was very likely that the inheritance of that invincible sword immortal was inside. The Eternal Sword Tomb was also one of the most powerful top divine weapons in the heavenly domain. All the sword cultivators in the heavenly domain regarded the Eternal Sword Tomb as the holy land of Sword Dao. Unfortunately, although they knew that the Eternal Sword Tomb was a divine weapon, but for so many years, no one in the heavenly domain had been able to refine the Eternal Sword Tomb. When the Eternal Sword Tomb was first determined to be a divine weapon, it set off a wave of people who wanted to refine the Eternal Sword Tomb. Countless people wanted to forcibly refine the Eternal Sword Tomb, but in the end, they all ended up dying. In the end, after an ancient emperor expert was killed by the thousands of swords in the Eternal Sword Tomb, the craze was completely extinguished like a flame that had been splashed with water. Of course, there were occasionally people who did not give up and wanted to refine the Eternal Sword Tomb. But from the fact that the Eternal Sword Tomb still existed until now, it was obvious what happened to those people. Long Hao had actually been to the Eternal Sword Tomb and stayed there for a full 10 years. This came as a surprise to Qin Yu. It seemed that Long Hao had obtained some opportunity in the Eternal Sword Tomb. It was even possible that he had obtained the inheritance of that legendary sword immortal. Otherwise, Long Hao would not have been able to escape from the hands of the Ghost Emperor Zhen Tian. You should want to know why it became like this, right? After pondering for a while, Qin Yu temporarily put aside the matter of Long Hao. The specific situation could only be determined after seeing Long Hao in person. Yes, Pan Hong and Tai Shu Kong nodded solemnly when they heard this. If one were to summarize the major events that had happened in the heaven domain in the past 1,000 years, Qin Yu's sudden disappearance would definitely come in handy. At that time, Qin Yu was known as the genius who was most likely to cross the peak of the ancient emperor realm. Countless cultivators were looking forward to the moment when Qin Yu would prove his Tao. They hoped that Qin Yu would step on a true path to immortality for this era and not be limited to the emperor realm. But the development of the situation was beyond everyone's expectations. Qin Yu suddenly disappeared for thousands of years, and no one could find any news about him. Countless people thought that Qin Yu had broken through the peak of the emperor realm and left the heaven domain. There were also some people who believed that Qin Yu had failed in his seclusion training and died due to being consumed by fire. But only Pan Hong, Taishu Kong, and the others knew that Qin Yu had died. But as for what had happened, they did not know. It was not until Long Hao killed his way to the Ghost Emperor Holy Island that they had some clues. Because I was betrayed back then. Qin Yu's eyes flickered with cold, killing intent, but his tone was quite calm. He told Pan Hong and Taishu Kong about how Xing Luo had joined forces with the 12 ancient emperors to besiege him in the immortal god graveyard. Marshal Uncle Xing Luo joined forces with Ghost Emperor Tian and the others. After Pan Hong and Taishu Kong heard this, their faces froze in disbelief. They had only suspected that Qin Yu's accident was related to Ghost Emperor Tian, but they did not expect that the leader would be Xing Luo. Even if this news came from Qin Yu's mouth, Pan Hong and Taishu Kong still could not believe it. He was still unable to believe it. Back then, the relationship between Qin Yu and Star Luo could be said to be akin to that of brothers. No matter who had plotted against Qin Yu, they would never have thought that Xing Luo would betray Qin Yu. So that's what Fairy Shualon meant when she said those words to us back then. Suddenly, Taishu Kong seemed to have thought of something, and he muttered to himself with a look of realization. Pan Hong was stunned for a moment before he came back to his senses. Have you seen Fairy Shualon? This made Qin Yu a little curious. About 600 years ago, when we were looking for you, we happened to meet Fairy Shualon, who was also looking for you. At that time, we asked Fairy Shualon about your situation, but Fairy Shualon said that you would return one day. In addition, Fairy Shualon also told us to be careful of Xing Luo. She told us to be careful of Xing Luo, and that if possible, it was best not to meet Xing Luo. When Pan Hong spoke, there was a look of fear in his eyes. Chapter 554. After Qin Yu went missing, Pan Hong and the other two went to look for Xing Luo many times, but they never saw him. At that time, they were worried that something might have happened to Xing Luo. Now that they thought about it, it was really thrilling. If they really saw Xing Luo at that time, Xing Luo, who even tried to kill Qin Yu, would probably kill them. Even now, they would not be able to withstand a few moves from Xing Luo, let alone back then. 600 years ago, Qin Yu pondered for a moment. It seemed that it was before the Heavenly Dragon continent sealed the Heavenly Dragon. The last place Fairy Shualon stayed was the Heavenly Dragon continent. Although he did not know what kind of secret technique Fairy Shualon used to sense Qin Yu, he did indeed wake up in the Heavenly Dragon continent. If it wasn't for the fact that Fairy Shualon had left for some unknown reason, it was very likely that they would have met in the Heavenly Dragon continent. Master, you said that Northern Emperor Luan Bei, Emperor God Xian Yu, and the Great Yin Emperor were among the ancient emperors that Xing Luo joined forces with? After coming back to his senses from the truth, Taishu Kong immediately thought of the 3 ancient emperors outside the sealed world. If Qin Yu's identity was discovered, don't worry, with my current appearance, they won't be able to recognize me. Even if they are suspicious, they won't be able to trace it back to me. Qin Yu smiled. Although many people had seen him use the divine abilities of the Dragon Clan, those who had seen the 9 secrets of the Battle Dragon and the immortal sacrifice forbidden technique were basically dead. Furthermore, he wasn't in his original appearance right now. Even if some people were suspicious, they wouldn't believe him. Even if they were suspicious, it would be difficult to find his true identity among more than 100,000 people, even if they were ancient emperors. One had to know that these more than 100,000 people were not ordinary people, but more than 100,000 Emperor Realm Masters. The difference between them was like the difference between heaven and earth. After chatting for a while, Qin Yu took out the sealed Emperor Soul of the great Yin Divine Sect's Peak Emperor. After refining and searching the Emperor Soul, he obtained a lot of information about the great Yin Divine Sect. Of course, the Peak Emperor Realm Master had already sealed the most important secrets. When Qin Yu forcefully broke it open, the entire sovereign spirit immediately combusted. Master, are you planning to make a move against Xing Luo and the others? When Pam Hong and Tai Shu Kong saw Qin Yu's actions, they immediately guessed Qin Yu's intentions. It's still too early to act now. However, it's also time to make some preparations in the eastern and southern prefectures. Qin Yu nodded and said, Star Luo and the 12 ancient emperors. No, it should be the 11 ancient emperors now. Because God Emperor Ji Xie had disappeared for some unknown reason, the Ji Xie God dynasty had been destroyed by Qin Yu. Therefore, Qin Yu's main focus would be on the eastern and southern prefectures. After wiping out several ancient emperor forces in the east and south prefectures, he started to deal with the ancient emperor forces in the middle prefecture. If that's the case, we might be able to help. Pam Hong hurriedly said, That's right. In the past 1,000 years, in order to make it easier for us to gather information, we have developed our forces in the east and south continent. I can't say that I know the situation of the two prefectures like the back of my hand, but I have a good grasp of the foundations of the various forces. Tai Shu Kong quickly added, After all, thousands of years had passed, and they had all become top sovereigns. Naturally, they were no longer alone. Qin Yu's eyes lit up when he heard this. In this way, it would be much easier for him to lay out his plans in the southern and southern prefectures. Not bad. I didn't expect you two brats to have such foresight. The Dragon Soul also laughed. If he had a foundation in the eastern and southern prefectures, Qin Yu would be able to sneak into the two prefectures without anyone noticing. Just like how no one would suspect Qin Yu's background if he blended into the Heavenly Imperial Palace. By the way, what kind of cultivation technique are you cultivating now? Qin Yu came back to his senses and asked Pam Hong and Tai Shu Kong. Since they had become top sovereigns, their cultivation techniques should not be any weaker than the emperor-level cultivation techniques that he had taught them before. However, if they wanted to become divine sovereigns, their cultivation techniques should at least be divine sovereigns. If they wanted to become ancient emperors, their cultivation techniques had to surpass divine sovereigns. In Qin Yu's previous life, he had not taught his two disciples anything. In this life, Qin Yu intended to cultivate them into top masters. The cultivation technique I am cultivating now is the 9 Revolutions Purple Sun Art. I am still cultivating the heavenly cycle deification art passed down by Master. Pam Hong and Tai Shu Kong did not hide anything and said directly. The 9 Revolutions Purple Sun Art was rumored to be a cultivation technique left behind by great Emperor Ziyang in ancient times. If one comprehended it thoroughly, one could condense 9 purple suns and increase one's battle prowess by 9 times. The heavenly cycle deification art was an ancient cultivation technique that Qin Yu had obtained from an ancient ruin. It was said that this cultivation technique had once been cultivated by an ancient god, and its power was immense. Pam Hong's 9 Revolutions Purple Sun Art had reached the 8th level and condensed 8 purple suns, increasing his battle prowess by 8 times. As for Tai Shu Kong, he had been stuck in a bottleneck before. When he was preparing to change his cultivation technique, he happened to encounter the birth of an ancient divine power. This allowed his comprehension of the heavenly cycle deification art to advance by leaps and bounds, allowing him to reach the peak of the Emperor Realm. Pam Hong, your 9 Revolutions Purple Sun Art is about to reach perfection. It is not suitable for you to change your cultivation technique now. When you condense 9 purple suns and merge them into one, it should be helpful for you to reach the Divine Emperor Realm. However, when you reach the Divine Emperor Realm, the potential of this cultivation technique will be exhausted. If you want to reach the Ancient Emperor Realm, you must change your cultivation technique. Qin Yu understood the 9 revolutions purple sun art very well, so he naturally knew the pros and cons. As he spoke, Qin Yu opened his right hand, and a ball of white light condensed in his palm. This divine heaven sun refining art is a divine cultivation technique from ancient times. It can absorb the power of the sun to cultivate. When cultivated to the peak, you can even directly draw the power of the sun to increase your strength. When you reach the divine emperor realm, you can change your cultivation technique to this cultivation technique. Qin Yu handed the white light to Pam Hong. The divine heaven sun refining art did not conflict with the 9 revolutions purple sun art. After Pam Hong changed his cultivation technique, he could perfectly integrate the purple sun vital essence, and his strength would be greatly improved. Ancient divine cultivation technique? Thank you, Master. Pam Hong's eyes lit up. All these years, he had spent a lot of effort to obtain a true divine cultivation technique. Unfortunately, the divine cultivation techniques that appeared were either incompatible with his cultivation. Otherwise, his cultivation and wealth were not as good as others, and his divine cultivation techniques were snatched away. Now that he had this divine cultivation technique, Pam Hong was confident that he could smoothly cultivate to the divine emperor realm. As for Lil Kong, you'll have to change the heavenly cycle deification skill that you're cultivating after leaving the mystery land. Qin Yu looked at Tai Shu Kong and sensed a little. He could feel that there was a strong divine power fluctuation in Tai Shu Kong's body. On the contrary, there was only a little divine power fluctuation in Pam Hong's body. Obviously, he had let Tai Shu Kong refine all the ancient divine power he had obtained. Master, why is that? Tai Shu Kong and Pam Hong looked at each other, puzzled. After all, the divine heaven sun refining art was a crucial reason why he could reach the peak of the divine emperor realm so quickly. Chapter 555. The reason is simple. The divine power imprint on Qin Yu's right palm flickered. The ancient divine power in Tai Shu Kong's body immediately surged. This is Tai Shu Kong's expression changed. He felt as if his entire body was about to explode. When the divine power imprint on Qin Yu's palm returned to normal, the ancient divine power in Tai Shu Kong's body gradually calmed down. How could this be? Tai Shu Kong's heart palpitated, and he even broke out in a cold sweat. It was the first time Tai Shu Kong had encountered something like this. The ancient divine power's vital core in his body was not under his control. This is related to the extraterritorial demon clan. I don't know the details yet. In short, after we leave the secret realm, I will strip the ancient divine power from your body, and you will cultivate this sword domain heavenly killer tome. You are on the path of the sword, and this sword domain heavenly killer tome can infinitely temper your sword will. When the sword will is tempered to the point of origin, it will be enough to slash the sky. More importantly, when you condense the tome, you can contain and seal the origin of thousands of sword will in it, forming the heavenly killer sword domain. Qin Yu handed a white light to Tai Shu Kong. This Jinyu Heaven Killer Tome was definitely among the best of the divine techniques Qin Yu had obtained in his previous life. Its power was so strong that even Qin Yu, who had cultivated the immemorial fighting dragon art, was tempted. Is this the supreme sword art left behind by the heavenly killer sword Celestial? After Tai Shu Kong merged with the white light, his face was full of shock. If this divine technique were to be spread, it would cause a great commotion among the sword cultivators of the entire heaven domain. It's about time to get the immortal spirit grass. After passing on the technique, Qin Yu stood up. The main purpose of this trip to the secret realm was to get the immortal spirit grass. With the immortal spirit grass and the 9 suns divine flower, Qin Yu could refine several rare divine elixirs and even immortal elixirs. Whether it was to let Pam Hong and Tai Shu Kong become divine emperors or to improve the cultivation of the Dragon Clan, it would be much easier. If Qin Yu wanted to take revenge on the star Luo 12, he would have to rely on top experts. For Northern Ancient Emperor Wan and the other ancient emperors, Killing these elite venerables was simply too much for them. It could only be considered as a mild injury, and it was difficult to injure the bones. At this moment, in the secret realm, there was an area that was filled with spiritual energy. It was like a paradise on earth. This area was quiet and peaceful, making people feel relaxed and happy as if they could forget their troubles when they stepped into it. Led by Shi Tiangang, Shi Tianyun, Sun Jiuxiao, and the other Emperor Masters of the Sky Emperor Palace used their secret techniques to hide in the heart of the area, in a stone forest. At first glance, they seemed to have merged into one with the strange rocks. It was impossible to tell. Outside the stone forest, there was a lake several thousand feet wide. The lake water was clear and pleasant, reflecting the entire heaven and earth within it, forming a beautiful double scenery of heaven and earth. However, Shi Tiangang and the others all knew that it wasn't a reflection of the water surface. Instead, it was an actual dual world. As long as they entered the lake, they would enter another secret realm. It could be said that this secret realm was the only space in the dual void secret realm where one could travel freely. Similarly, it was also the hiding place of the immortal spirit grass. The entire lake was controlled by the immortal spirit grass. As long as someone touched it, they would immediately be transported to a dangerous place in the other secret realm. Whether they could survive or not depended on their luck. Qi Shi Ri and the other descendants of the battle generals who had gone to set up the trap were now trapped in the other secret realm. If one looked from the sky, with the lake as the center, the terrain within 1,000 miles radius had been transformed into a gigantic formation. They were all vaguely transformed into a huge array formation, filled with extremely profound great Tao of heaven and earth. Gurgle, gurgle, gurgle. A day later, Shi Tiangang and the others suddenly focused their gazes. They all held their breaths and carefully looked at the lake. In the center of the originally calm lake, ripples suddenly appeared on the surface of the water. At the bottom of the lake, something seemed to be surging up. Soon, a crystal-clear blue light appeared, accompanied by the surging lake water. The blue light was a translucent blue water plant the size of a palm. One could clearly see strands of immortal qi flowing within the blue water plant. This blue water plant was the immortal spirit grass. It has finally appeared. Shi Tiangang secretly used a secret technique to transmit his voice. A mysterious ancient rune appeared in his palm. Shi Tianyun, Sun Jiuxiao, and the others also had mysterious ancient runes appear in their palms. As the ancient runes appeared in their palms, transparent ancient runes appeared in the clear lake water. However, as they were born from the lake water, not only were they transparent, but the ripples were also the same as the lake water. The immortal spirit grass did not detect them. Shi Tiangang and the others who sensed this scene were all delighted. This secret technique was indeed specially targeted at the immortal spirit grass. It seemed that the ancestor who had left behind the prophecy had really seen the present from the past. Do it. Just as the immortal spirit grass floated to the surface of the lake and absorbed the spiritual qi of heaven and earth, Shi Tiangong's eyes flashed. Sun Jiuxiao and the other sovereigns of the Sky Emperor Palace immediately crushed the ancient runes that appeared in their palms. Only Shi Tiangong's ancient runes remained. Buzz, 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 as Sun Jiuxiao and the others crushed the ancient runes in their palms. The originally transparent ancient runes in the lake suddenly solidified. In an instant, the entire space of the lake was covered by those ancient runes. The immortal spirit grass, which had sensed it, had just reacted when it was surrounded by those ancient runes. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The immortal spirit grass struggled as strands of immortal qi flowed rapidly in its body. Immediately, the entire lake trembled. The void cracked inch by inch, and the sky looked like it was about to collapse. As expected of an immortal spirit grass, Shi Tiangang could not hide the shock in his eyes as he looked at the void that seemed to have turned into a spider web with the immortal spirit grass as the center. If they had been in the vicinity of such a terrifying scene, they would have been torn apart by the void. Form a formation. Of course, although he was shocked, Shi Tiangang did not stop because of this. All the Tao power in his body surged into the ancient runes in his palms. Behind Shi Tiangang, Sun Jiuxiao, Shi Tianyun, and the others spread out in a fan shape. Everyone's Tao power and true Yuan gathered on Shi Tiangang's body. Then, Shi Tiangang guided them into the mysterious ancient runes in his palms. Crack! A crisp cracking sound could be heard. The ancient runes seemed to have broken through some kind of seal. A pitch-black light flickered as a mighty aura spread in all directions, suppressing the entire area. The ancient runes on the lake, which had been unstable due to the explosion of the immortal spirit grass, immediately solidified. Immediately, the rampaging immortal spirit grass was sealed by the prison. Puffed. As the Tao power and true Yuan of everyone from the Sky Emperor Palace entered his body, Shi Tiangong's face turned pale. He could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.